The girl became pregnant and gave birth to 4 poisonous snakes. Each one flicked its tongue at her. She tried all kinds of methods to kill them, but the snake babies became more and more dependent on her. Finally, when the girl sold the oldest and second ones for a couple of cheap animal skins, after selling the oldest and the second, the snake babies were completely disappointed with their mother. It turned out that this ugly female really didn't love them. The fourth one even, in a fit of rage, pushed her off the cliff. She opened her eyes again. By her side were the concerned voices of 2 little ones. Third brother, that bad female seems to be dead. If she's dead, so be it. Anyway, Viva will only torture us. Upon hearing this, the woman suddenly opened her eyes. What female? How could she still be alive? She was stunned by the loud explosion. She looked at the 2 children in confusion. Hey, little one, where are we? She hadn't expected that as soon as she finished speaking, the 2 little ones backed away as if they had seen a ghost. The little one with black hair was the first to speak. She's still alive, Behi. Do you see that? That name sounds familiar, but I can't remember it right now. The important thing now is the wound on the back of her head. Little one, it hurts so much. Help me check it. She looked with eyes bigger than walnuts, accompanied by the blood flowing from her head. Frightened, the 2 little ones stepped back a few more steps. The little ones retreated 8 steps. The little one with blue hair bared his teeth. Don't think you can hit us. We're not afraid of you. Bad female, now you hit us. Aren't you afraid we'll grow up if we're sold? Bad female? Behi, wasn't that the great villain with a tragic end who seduced the husband in the beast world she had seen before? The great villain who ends tragically? It can't be. How could something so unfortunate happen to her? But still, she doesn't give up and confirms. Little ones, who are you? What is my name? Upon hearing this, the little one with blue hair gave a cold, sarcastic look. Bad female, why are you acting dumb with us? Do you still want to play the amnesia game? The little one with white hair seemed a bit soft-hearted. I'm called Bei. He's on-scene. You're yin-yang. You're a female who's black, ugly, small, and weak. The woman immediately kicked with both legs and lay down again. They're really identical. Dongyan is the mother of the 4 great villains, Dongqi, Nanmo, On-Sein, the biological mother of the 4 cold snake men from the north. That is, their biological mother. In the original, she doesn't like her snake man partner at all. Therefore, she despises her 4 snake man babies greatly. She hits and yells at the babies non-stop. She even sold the 2 oldest ones for a couple of animal skins. She sold the oldest and the second. The distorted traits of the 4 villains are all related to her. In the end, they were killed together by several children. It's really tragic when she regained consciousness. The little ones who had just wanted to hit and kill her were no longer there. It's also true. With a mother like that, what child could believe? After sitting for a while against the wall, she noticed something abnormal. An intermittent smell. It made her feel nauseous, almost vomiting. She realized that in this cave, there were piles of decomposing prey everywhere. The only bed was made of animal skin. It was also covered in dirt. She felt her whole body itching as she scratched herself with her hand. It was really a large lump of black mud. Who can bear this? Damn it! Cyan quickly leaned against the wall to stand up, exploring if her powers from the apocalypse still persisted. In her previous life, she was a dual user of wood and space elemental abilities. She was a rare, dual-talented user in the apocalypse. With a single thought, she used all her strength to open a small crack in space. Although it was only 1 cubic meter, it was completely filled. Inside, she found a disinfectant wipe. She used it to simply treat the wound on the back of her head. Then, slowly, she opened her hands. A small seedling grew in the palm of her hand. Finally, a smile appeared on her face. She felt very lucky that her dual abilities were still with her. She regained her vitality. She took out a knife and exited the space. Seeing a raw sweet potato at the entrance of the cave, she peeled it with the silver knife. After opening her mouth and eating it, it made her hungry stomach feel a little better. She then left the cave and gathered some dry branches. She managed to make a simple broom. She swept up each piece of trash in the cave. Taking advantage of the sun shining just right, she also washed and dried the dirty animal skins from the bed. After doing all this, she crouched and sniffed herself. What a terrible smell. The gray wolfskin she was wearing was also stiff. Its fur was tangled. Everything was covered in grime. She really wanted to wash, but she didn't have time today. She was very hungry. She also had to prepare food for those two little ones. But there was no food in this cave. When she left the cave, the gray werewolf, Lan Feng, was standing in front of the cave calling her. "I've returned from the house. Come collect the meat." The name of this tribe is Yanjiang. In the beastmen world, the males can transform into beasts, and they can also transform into human form. They have a robust physique, and their attack power is formidable. The females are weak. After reaching adulthood, they can only stay in human form. They cannot change. The changes in the world have made it increasingly difficult for females to be born. The male-to-female ratio has almost become 10-1. That's why the females have become objects of competition and protection for the males. Even Cyan, who is so dirty and dark, so lazy and evil, who seems like she won't live long, is still well cared for by the tribe. Every day, the males of the tribe return from hunting, and they always leave some pieces of meat for her. However, because she is the typical ugly female in the beastman world, for all these years, besides having a snake man partner, no one has wanted her. This time, she got a large piece of meat. She also picked up a big bone that others didn't want. Then, using her plant ability, she produced some potatoes. She cooked a large pot of stewed meat with potatoes. But seeing the sky growing darker and darker, the two snake babies still hadn't returned. Nothing's happened, right? She ran out, looking everywhere for Onsen and Niveji. Honestly, if she was no longer afraid of anything, she was still afraid of snakes at that moment. She just felt anxious. Fortunately, she didn't search for too long. The two little ones came out quickly. She asked why she was shouting, looking at them with a face full of impatience. Sikyan was angry and helpless at the same time. But the important thing was that they were fine, so she called the two little ones to go back home to eat. But the third one had his head lowered. He said there was a long-eared animal dead in the forest. Cyan's eyes instantly lit up. The long-eared ones are rabbits. Rabbit meat is not only delicious, but its fur is also very useful. So she decided to go see it. The two little ones volunteered to lead the way, but the further they walked, the deeper they went. Afraid of getting lost, she decided to take the two snake babies back. Turning around, she encountered a green snake, and it was flicking its tongue like a little snake. She felt her blood freeze from head to toe. She even froze, not daring to move. It was a snake. My God. When she finally reacted, the two little ones had already disappeared. So, they had been tricking her. At the same time, two small snakes, one green and one white, quickly returned to the cave. Onsen couldn't help but laugh out loud. That female, that rich female, she's gonna have big problems tonight. I don't think this clumsy one knows how to return. But Beiji pulled on his clothes. Third, look, we haven't returned to the wrong house. Onsen finally managed to stop laughing. He looked up and saw. The cave was clean and fresh. There was no longer that bad smell. There was even a small stone channel. They inserted a beautiful wildflower. They had lived here for several years. It couldn't be that they didn't even recognize their own home. But why was the house so clean today? And besides, there is food on the table. 3 halves of coconut shells are on the stone, as if someone were waiting for them to return and eat together. Beiji remembered what the ugly female had said before. I have prepared the food and have been waiting for you for a long time. He looked at Onsezu. Could it be that the food was really made by the ugly female? Right, older brother? Ontessen's first reaction was to think of that ugly female. How could she be so kind? Could she be trying to poison them? Beiji took a piece of potato and started eating. Immediately, his eyes lit up. Older brother, try it. It's really delicious. Onsen's stomach let out a growl. In the end, he sat down to eat with his brother. While eating, he suddenly felt that something was off. That bad female was acting very strange today. She was cleaning and cooking at the same time. If something seems unusual, there must be a reason behind it. He quickly thought of an answer. That ugly female doesn't want to sell us, does she? Onferisen had a fierce expression. She surely wants to sell us too? She has always despised me. This wouldn't be the first time she tried to sell me. If it weren't for that, if it weren't for my ruined face, she would have sold me long ago. Beneath her long blue hair, half of her face bore a horrible burn scar. A cold-blooded person. Not welcome anywhere. An existence even family does not want. Beiji said nothing. Selling them. He believed that bad female could do something like that. They were worth no more than an animal skin. Cryan couldn't even eat that. Suddenly, all the children, unable to eat, sat face to face in their human forms. Sadness floated in their eyes. Meanwhile, Creon was in great trouble. A tiger with red glowing eyes was staring at her greedily. Damn brat. It really thought she would feed the beast. Creon gripped the dagger in her hand. That dagger, against the white tiger in front of her, was probably no more than a toothpick. Without thinking twice, she climbed straight up a tree. Then, she took a gun from her storage space. She immediately loaded the ammunition. Her bullet supply was low. One less was one less. Every shot counted. But this was a life-or-death situation. She couldn't afford to hesitate. She aimed the gun at the white tiger's eyes. She fired the first shot. Unfortunately, she missed. The tiger moved too fast. However, it still had several wounds on its face. The enraged tiger was clearly even angrier. Cyan quickly climbed the tree. As she climbed, she gritted her teeth in frustration. This is still just an animal. This is harder to kill than a zombie. She hadn't climbed far before she was already out of breath. The tiger was already very close. Cyan grabbed a vine in her hand. She quickly used her wood elemental ability to wrap it. She prepared a small trap to catch the tiger's paw. Sure enough, the tiger's paw moved too fast. It was caught by a vine that suddenly grew. It fell to the ground. Cyan immediately held onto the vine in the large tree and climbed higher. This tiger wasn't giving up. It clearly wanted to devour her. By dawn, everyone would notice she was missing and come looking. There was still a long time to go. It wasn't worth wasting time. If she wanted to survive, she had to kill the tiger. She thought for a moment and took a bundle of silver threads from her storage space. She wrapped one around another branch. Her trap was very well camouflaged. After setting the trap, the large white tiger was just about to pounce. Cyan looked at the tiger with disdain. Then, she climbed higher up the tree. The large white tiger became furious. It leaped sharply at the tree. Then, suddenly, thread marks appeared on its body. Drops of blood began to seep from the thread marks. Its eyes, neck, and legs were torn. The white tiger showed an expression of disbelief. It lost strength and balance. The tiger fell heavily to the ground once again. After struggling for several minutes, it became motionless. Cyan observed for a while and, once she was sure everything was fine, she quickly gathered the thread marks and secured them. Carefully, she began to descend. Then she pulled out a knife to cut the white tiger's meat. She hadn't had dinner. Her stomach was already growling with hunger. She used a knife to cut the meat. Then she sprinkled some salt on it. She roasted it and started eating. Unbeknownst to her, her actions were being observed by an owl in a distant tree. It had never heard of a female being able to hunt. This little black and ugly female actually managed to kill a forest deer. And why did what she roasted smell so good? After a good meal, Cyan left that place. The owl approached the fire. It grabbed the roasted meat Cyan hadn't finished. It stuffed it all into its mouth. Then, its eyes lit up. Delicious. Agile, and the food was tasty. If she weren't so dirty and ugly, it might have chosen her as its little female. Cyan ran for a long time. When dawn was about to break, she finally felt that what lay ahead seemed a little familiar. At that moment, she was angry and resentful. Those two little ones really held a grudge against her. But that was something from the previous body. What did it have to do with her? She wanted to be kind to the two little ones. But those two little ones did this to her. It was her first time as a mother. Why should she allow this? Cyan returned to the cave, full of fury. She saw in the corner of the cave, Onsei and Nivehi hugging each other while sleeping. Her previously agitated heart calmed down again. Two little troublemakers. Aren't you even sleeping in the bed? Aren't you cold sleeping on the ground? She was filled with rage. Get up! Onsei and Nivehi had already heard the noise. They just didn't feel like paying attention. Yesterday, they had tricked the ugly female. She would surely come today to teach them a lesson. But they were already used to being beaten, as long as they weren't killed. What did it matter? However, Cyan not only didn't hit them, but also let them sleep in the bed. The strangest thing was that she even allowed them to call her mother. It was truly incomprehensible. Clearly, wasn't this what she wanted? Not in the bed? Not allowed to call her mother? The corners of Cyan's lips trembled. This was a transgression caused by the original. She thought for a moment and calmly said to them, "From today on, everyone will sleep in the bed. But you must apologize for last night." Onsen directly refused. It was impossible for him to apologize to the ugly female. However, Beiji suddenly spoke. "I'm sorry, last night we just wanted to scare you." In fact, last night, upon returning to the cave, he sensed a change in the bad female. The house was clean, and there was hot food. That was the first time he felt the warmth of a home. So he wanted to give the ugly female a chance. And if the ugly female truly changed, On sent his traditional brother away. Angry, he ran out carrying a potato in his arms. Beiji, seeing this, quickly followed him. When Saskatchewan came to her senses, only she remained in the cave. She had walked all night. She was so tired that she was barely breathing. She drank some of what the two cubs had left yesterday. She threw herself onto the bed and fell asleep, but the stone bed was too hard. She didn't sleep long before waking up. It seemed she needed to prioritize remodeling the stone bed. There was a lot of straw near the cave. Zion gathered it all. She put it in the sun to dry. Then, she tightened the straw and made a soft, comfortable straw cushion. Just as she finished everything, she heard noise outside. She saw that, not far away, under a big tree, a tall and fat female was grabbing her two little ones. Beiji and Onsen looked very messy. Next to them was a pile of scattered sweet potatoes. "Cold-blooded snake man that no one wants. You're out stealing again." The fat female Shianai took a defensive stance and started shouting. Zion quickly ran over. "Stop! How dare you touch my little ones?" Shianai looked at Zion curiously. Zion was known in the tribe as the ugly, lazy, and bad female. She didn't care about her little ones at all. Seeing that Shianai didn't react, Zion approached and started pulling her hair. Shianai felt a sharp pain in her scalp from being grabbed. She had no choice but to let go of the two little ones. "Zion, are you sick? These two little snakes are stealing." Meanwhile, Onsen and Beiji, out of control, quickly began picking up the sweet potatoes from the ground. They ran to a corner to hide. This bad female never cared about them. If they caused trouble, she always hit them without asking why. She would surely help Shianai beat them. The two little ones hugged each other tightly. Zion's lips trembled at the sight. They didn't trust her that easily. But for now, she had to get rid of those harassing her little ones. "Why are you bullying my little ones?" Shianai didn't expect it. This small and thin female surprisingly had so much strength. She almost tore her hair out. "Who said I'm bullying the little ones? They stole from me. They are little thieves." A certain disdainful anger appeared on Onsen's face. Beiji lowered his head. Before, whenever someone accused them of something, the bad female never cared. She only believed strangers. Expecting the ugly female to help them was like dreaming, but they didn't expect that the ugly female just looked at them once and firmly declared they hadn't stolen anything. Shianai shouted loudly that it was impossible. Her sweet potato had been on a large leaf over there. She left for a moment, and it disappeared. At that moment, those two little ones were each hugging a big pile. One was holding a whole bunch. If it wasn't them, who else could it be? Besides, Onsen and Beiji were known in the tribe as famous thieves, Zion sneered. "So you didn't see it with your own eyes." To clear the little ones of suspicion, Zion secretly activated her elemental ability. Sure enough, she detected a faint scent of sweet potatoes. She crouched down to look closely. She saw a few small footprints left on the ground. Zion followed the direction of the small footprints and quickly ran over. She parted the grass. She only saw a few chubby bear cubs hidden among the grass, eating sweet potatoes in big bites. Shianai shouted in surprise, "They're Xiang Ruo's cubs!" Without a word, Shianai grabbed the 4 bear cubs from the ground. The bear cubs began to hit and kick, crying and screaming. But one glare from her silenced them completely. "Shianai, you must apologize to Onsen and Beiji." However, Shianai didn't care. "Why should I apologize? Cold-blooded snake man. This isn't the first time they've stolen. Who knows if the sweet potatoes they have now weren't stolen from someone else?" Shianai's scornful tone made Zion very uncomfortable. She looked back at her 2 little ones. Onsen and Beiji pressed their lips into a tight line, looking hurt and stubborn. Maternal love overflowed again. She finally suppressed it forcefully, leaving Shianai with a bruised face, so fierce that even the 4 bear cubs on the side were frightened. After hitting her, she didn't forget to drag the 2 little ones in front of her. "Apologize to me!" Pressured, Shianai gave in. She quickly shouted an apology, turned around, and ran away crying. Seeing such a fierce Zion, Onsen and Beiji doubted whether she had lost her mind. She was really fighting for them. Had she gone crazy? While the 2 little ones were discussing excitedly, Zion shouted, "Hurry up and come back with me!" Onsen and Beiji looked at each other. Were they going to be beaten again? The ugly female would always be an ugly female. Nature is hard to change. After returning to the cave, the two little snake cubs sat nervously inside, waiting for Xian to hit them. But instead, they saw her outside. Xian brought in a newly made grass mat. She spread it under the animal skin. Then, she sat in front of the fire, roasting potatoes. Onsen whispered to Beiji, "Since when did the ugly female use divine fire?" Fire was considered sacred among beastmen. In the Rocky Mountain tribe, only the village chief had fire to light. Most beastmen in the tribe ate raw food. Yesterday, the two had only looked at the fire with curiosity. Today, they saw with their own eyes how Xian played with the fire. Their confusion grew. Beiji shook his head. "I don't know, maybe she's really possessed." Onsen frowned. "If she's corrupted, can she control the divine fire?" After preparing the food, Xian called them to eat, but the two little ones sat still, not daring to move. Seducing the little villains wasn't something that could be done overnight. She wasn't worried now. After eating a roasted potato, she left the cave alone. After Xian left, Onsen and Beiji looked at each other. "It's very strange. The ugly female didn't hit us." They had been hungry all day. Their stomachs growled. In the end, they decided to give in. The roasted potato and meat were a little hot but very delicious. Xian found a large log. She dragged it back to the cave. She wanted to make a container to bathe in, but she couldn't transform like the beastmen. She couldn't dig out a container with her claws. Although she had a silver knife, it wasn't very useful. How do you make a barrel? For a moment, Xian felt troubled. The two cubs who had finished eating continued watching her in the cave. Onsen suddenly asked, "What are you doing, ugly female?" Jan shared her idea. "Don't you have a snake scale?" Sid Jan was full of doubts. Bailey reminded her, "I guess maybe, if it's the snake scale that her father left." Si Jan blinked. She remembered. When she was cleaning the house, she saw a purple, semi-translucent scale. It was very pretty and quite large. Si Jan quickly went to the bedside to retrieve it. Looking at this snake scale, which was larger than her hand, she felt a little curious. If the father of the four cubs had scales this big, then his true form must be enormous. She used the snake scale to carve a bit of wood. The hard wood seemed like tofu. It was cut very easily. It was really useful. Xian couldn't help but sigh. Beiji murmured in a low voice beside her, "The beast father is very strong. Too bad you don't want him." Tom Jan looked at the snake scale. The father of the big villains. A great villain. His power, of course, was formidable, but that had nothing to do with her. She didn't actually plan to mate with a beastman, let alone the snake she feared the most. With the help of the snake scale, it didn't take long before she made 2 wooden buckets, a small bucket for carrying water, a large bucket for bathing. Then she boiled a large pot of water for her bath. The 2 cubs watched her. They didn't know what she was planning to do. "Onsen, come take a bath." Onsen frowned. "I'm not going to bathe. If you don't bathe, bugs will grow on your body, and it will itch." "I'm already used to itching." Xian's face darkened. "If you don't bathe, there will be no dinner." Onsen snorted. The bad female either hit him or starved him. Anyway, it was always the same tricks over and over. If he didn't want to eat, he wouldn't eat. Sigyan was a little angry. She turned to Beiji. "Beiji, come take a bath." Beiji hesitated for a moment, then took a step forward. Onsen watched Beiji. He felt betrayed. Beiji. The little beastman only wore an animal skin skirt. Taking it off was easy. After washing thoroughly, the little one's soft and smooth skin looked like milk. That made Xian's attitude turn gentle. Onsen stared at Xian as she bathed Beiji. He didn't know what was going on in his little head. Beiji was completely clean after the bath. He planned to put on his animal skin skirt. However, Xian stopped him and wouldn't let him put it on. Onsen quickly came over and angrily said, "Ugly female, do you dare harass Beiji? Do you want to insult him?" Snakes have two. Adult snake men aren't afraid. Besides, they feel majestic and powerful. But little snake men are often bullied because of this. Who would have thought that when she opened her eyes again, the woman seemed to have completely changed. Not only did she bathe them, but she also allowed 2 little ones to sleep on the bed. She placed a mat of 1,000 herbs under the animal skin bed. Sleeping on it was fluffy and soft. After washing Beiji, she wrapped him like a zongzi and put him on top. Onsen was completely jealous. Xian also removed quite a bit of mud. After washing up, she took out a set of clean clothes from her space and put them on. When the thick mud was washed away, Xian's skin turned out to be milky white. Her facial features were delicate and small, which enhanced her beauty. The two snake cubs never imagined that underneath all that dirt, the ugly female actually looked so beautiful. If it weren't for the fact that beastmen recognize people by scent, they would never have believed it. At that moment, Xian prepared to take out the washed animal skins and hang them to dry in the cave. But Onsen stopped her. "Don't go out, ugly female, unless you want a few more mates." Xian suddenly froze in place. She had only been focused on getting clean, forgetting that this was a primitive tribe with many wolves and little meat. She had no interest in taking a mate. If she had known, she wouldn't have bathed. Instead of falling into the danger of being surrounded by beastmen, it was better to stay dirty. Thinking of this, she quickly took makeup from her space. Blush? Eyeshadow? Mascara? She arranged them all. Beiji stared at her. His big eyes watched as the bad female in front of him turned into a dark, blotchy face. Now there shouldn't be any problems going outside, right? Xian's cave was in the most remote part of the tribe. So when she went out, she didn't encounter other beastmen. She walked around for a while but didn't find anything to eat. Then she pointed at the sweet potatoes in the corner and asked, "Can we eat the sweet potatoes you brought tonight?" Onsen remained silent, lips pressed together. Beiji, however, responded with a question. "Why are there no suspicions about them in the Eastern Kingdom today? Why does that matter? Can't I know about my own cubs?" Moreover, she had said it many times. "Don't call her ugly female, call her mother." Onsen stretched his neck in disdain. He definitely wouldn't do it. But Beiji, on the other hand, betrayed him. In a childish voice he said, "Mother." That made Xian very happy. She even lifted the little one into the air. Beiji was a little surprised, his cheeks slightly flushed. He said, "Mother, Onsen and I dug up the sweet potatoes. They are edible." This sentence was even an answer to her previous question. Xian smiled. "Then I'll go wash the sweet potatoes and prepare them for you to eat." After washing them, Xian roasted some and also made sweet potato soup. They sat down and began to eat. Onsen sat far away, watching that stubborn figure. Xian felt both angry and amused. "Come and eat! You said I couldn't eat without bathing." Xian spoke a few more kind words. He hesitated for a moment before awkwardly approaching, muttering under his breath, "I was the one who dug up the sweet potatoes." Xian nodded. Yes, you dug them up, now eat." After eating, Beiji sat next to Onsen. He originally wanted to advise him, but the boy didn't even pay attention to him. At night, when it was time to sleep, the two little ones prepared to sleep in the corner, but they were scolded. Xian frowned. "Didn't we say from now on you'd sleep on the bed?" She crouched down and lifted little Beiji, placing him on the bed. Then, she patiently reached out to carry Onsen. But Onsen stubbornly refused to get on the bed. "Ugly female, I'm not sleeping in the bed. Even if I die, it's none of your business." Oh God, this really makes my liver hurt from anger. I just want to hit these little ones. In the end, she simply stopped worrying about him. After lying down, she carefully tucked Beiji in with a blanket and fell asleep. The eyes of snake men are very sharp. Even at night, they can see clearly. Beiji turned his head to look at Xian, who was sleeping beside him. He sniffed. "She smells so nice. The bed is also very soft. I've never slept this comfortably before." A feeling of warmth spread through his heart. This strange sensation wasn't unpleasant. On the contrary, it was quite nice. Beiji could no longer sleep. From time to time, he secretly opened his eyes to look at her. This is mother. Even though the mother he had now was deceiving him. Even though on the third day she was going to sell him. Still, he felt very happy. Little Beiji's tiny hand clenched Xian's clothes, as if he were afraid she would escape. Xian, resigned, let him hold on. She was a woman who could sleep through anything, even if the sky were to fall. It wasn't long before she fell into a deep sleep. Onsen glared fiercely at Beiji. "Valen betrayed me. He got close to the ugly female without permission." That angered him. He turned away in a huff, his back facing them. In the middle of the night, Xian got up to go to the bathroom. Seeing Onsen curled up in the corner, she hesitated. Her two little ones were quite troublesome, especially Onsen, like a little hedgehog. But when he slept, he was quite adorable. Suddenly, Xian chuckled aloud, unaware that Onsen was already awake. "In the middle of the night, this female isn't sleeping. Why is she staring at me and laughing? Is she planning to take advantage of me while I'm asleep and then sell me again? Wei Lin, lying on the bed, was also restless. What does the bad female want now? However, to everyone's surprise, Cinema picked up Onsane and gently placed him on the bed. This. Onsane's heart was in turmoil. I haven't bathed, and I smell bad. The bed is so clean. How can I sleep in it? But the bad female lay down beside him, so close he could hear the soft rhythm of her heartbeat. In an extremely stiff posture, Onsane fell asleep. The next morning, Sikian realized her 2 little ones were missing. She went out searching for a long time. Eventually, she found Beihu, looking unwell. The 3rd brother went to bathe in the river. There's hot water, and he still chooses to bathe in cold water. Such a troublesome little one. At that moment, Beihu crouched down, holding his belly. Tears welled in his eyes as he looked up at her. Mother, I think I'm going to die. Xinqian froze in fear. She asked questions for a long time, until finally, the little one explained. Mother, there are worms in my poop. Beastmen of the primitive tribe mostly eat raw meat, so it's very common for them to have parasites. It doesn't affect beastmen who have cultivated the green crystal inside them, but for young beastmen, it's deadly. Onsane, who had returned quickly, happened to hear the conversation between mother and son. Without saying a word, he dragged Beiji to the healer. Along the way, many were surprised by Cyan's change. That ugly female seems to have improved a bit, but she's still too thin. However, she looks much more attractive than before. Some males were already showing interest. The healer of the mountain tribe was an elderly female. She was a foreign deer named Maiswen. Seeing Cyan's family, she stopped grinding medicine and came over to ask what was wrong. But upon hearing their concern, she sighed and waved her hand. I can't cure parasitic infections. It's not that I don't want to. It's that no one in the entire Beastman continent can cure it. The only way to survive is to quickly cultivate the green crystal. Maiswen looked at Beiji, her eyes full of pity. After leaving the Maiswen cave, Cyan and the 2 cubs were a little down. As they passed through the center of the tribe, suddenly a 2-meter-tall beast male appeared. A beautiful female. Can I be your mate? Cyan was already quite annoyed. Hearing such absurd words, she didn't even look at him. She simply shouted, "Out!" Once looked up and stared at her. Even if she had painted her face like Pop Marks, there would still be males who wanted to pursue her. Moreover, that male from earlier seemed to be Tai, the first warrior of the Xianxiang tribe. I'm not mistaken, right? Just in terms of appearance, he already surpasses the other beast males from the Rock clan by a whole street. Tyson, realizing he was rejected by a female, scratched his head. A little disheartened, but he didn't give up. The others took the opportunity to mock him. Tyson really has guts. Even an ugly female like Yan can be eaten. Because of the issue with the insects, the 2 cubs had a downcast expression. Cyan looked at the downcast cubs and frowned slightly. When she was in university, she studied botany and vaguely remembered seeing plants that could repel insects. What was it? Thinking hard for a while, she finally remembered. Pumpkin seeds. They are pumpkin seeds. She tapped her forehead, a little excited, but she wasn't sure if pumpkins existed in this world. So she drew a pumpkin on the ground so the 2 cubs could recognize it. Once furrowed his brow, thinking seriously. I've seen that downstream by the creek. The 3 hurriedly reached the creek's edge. And indeed, they found the pumpkin. There was one that was quite ripe. The others were like that. Xian was very happy. She cut the ripe pumpkin and hugged it. She shouted excitedly, Beiji is saved! The pumpkin can save lives! Once shut his mouth with an incredulous expression. This is something that even the shaman can't solve. A bad female could, dreaming. But now, to save Beiji, we could only bet on a dead horse as if it were alive. After returning to the cave, Cyan opened the ripe pumpkin. Then she washed the pumpkin seeds and dried them. She ground them into powder again and mixed them with water. This won't be toxic, right? While Once still had doubts, Beiji drank it in one gulp. Then, Cyan and Once also drank it. She told the 2 cubs that when their stomachs hurt, they should go relieve themselves. They'd pass many worms. This is a normal phenomenon. Don't be afraid. If you drink it for a few days, you will feel better. What Xian said happened. Beiji expelled the most. He felt a little weak, but his eyes were bright. The mother's medicine seems to be effective. That means Jan won't do it. Even Once found it incredible. Bad female. Turns out she's also a hidden healer. The lady really brought water. washing the cubs in the cave. This time, even once didn't reject her as much. Cyan also felt quite happy. The pumpkin seeds not only dewormed, but they were also quite tasty. Truly, there are treasures everywhere. She intended to transplant the pumpkin into the garden once, and Beiji looked at her confused. What's transplanting? Cyan smiled mysteriously. You'll know soon. She wanted Beiji to rest at home, but Beiji insisted on going with her. In the end, she had no choice but to take the 10. In the end, she could only take the 2 cubs. After planting the pumpkin properly, once had a confused expression on the ground. Will it survive like this? Tong Wai smiled and demonstrated connections. Only his hands could be seen over the soil next to the pumpkin. A faint green glow began to appear. Then, the pumpkin visibly grew. Some pumpkins had even started to turn red. Cyan looked at the biggest pumpkin and smiled. Maybe this pumpkin can be eaten tomorrow. Beiji, surprised, opened his mouth. The power of the mother is so powerful. Plus, she can control plants. Is Mother a priestess? This is Mother's secret. Mother only tells you. You must keep it a secret for Mother. The 2 brothers considered it very important. They nodded in unison. That night, Cyan prepared stir-fried pumpkin with meat and stir-fried beast liver. These 2 dishes were really delicious. X, Q, N, G, and Biggie were completely conquered by the taste. I can't stop eating. After finishing the meal, Zikin was a little worried. What if someone takes the pumpkins? If not, should I stay and guard them? That's very valuable magical medicine. Is it really safe to leave them outside? But Cyan laughed and stopped him. You don't have to worry. If someone steals it, there are so many by the creek that no one wants them. The next morning, the weather was sunny. Cyan woke up from her sleep. The 2 cubs were waiting for her in the cave. Not bad. There's progress. Cyan lazily petted the heads of the 2 cubs. Zikin removed her hand from Cyan's. Biggie smiled and accepted Cyan petting his head. Looking at the 2 adorable cubs, Cyan felt very pleased inside. After breakfast, she used snake scales to carve wood into some simple shovels. With 2 cubs in hand, following Mom together, they cultivated the land near the cave. The 2 cubs worked very hard. It was an effort that Cyan had never seen in the apocalypse, as if they felt, deep down, that working was something very sacred and honorable. With the help of the cubs, the land was cultivated quickly. Cyan planted potatoes and sweet potatoes. Then they made a new deworming powder. The powder was placed in a glass jar. They prepared the medicine. X, Q, N, G, Biggie, and Cyan took it. It wasn't long before they expelled many parasites again. It wasn't as bad as it seemed. If we keep taking this for 2 more days, we should be fine. Binan's little face was excited. I know I won't die. He felt it strongly one day. Mom, can you give me a little more medicine? Why do you need the medicine? Just after speaking, she suddenly realized what the 2 children wanted to do. The day after crossing, the 2 cubs took the potatoes and potato stew. She thought they were taking it to eat. The result was that they took it to Donchi Hinanmo. After the original body sold Donchi Hinanmo, these 2 cubs had been living poorly. If it weren't for the constant support of Zikin and Beiji, they might have died long ago. She searched for some leaves and wrapped 4 packages of medicinal powder. If it's for Donchi Hinanmo to use, then it's enough for 2 days, Cyan reminded Beigi. 1 per day. Just dissolve it in water, and it's fine. After saying this, she took another large leaf and wrapped a large piece of steamed pumpkin. Take it together! Sifalkin and Beiji nodded. The 2 little cubs ran out. After circling several caves, the brothers finally reached Xiangrao's cave. Dongqi and Nanmo were sold here. Xiangru is a female with more than a dozen mates, but she has only had 1 litter of cubs. They are the 4 who stole sweet potatoes from Xiangnai a few days ago. Xiangru doesn't like cold-blooded snake people. She exchanged Dongqi and Nanmo for 2 animal skins, just to intimidate them. Every day, not only does she deny them food, but she also forces them to work every day. Beiji spoke to his 2 brothers. He gave a brief introduction about the insect medicine. Dongqi had an expression of disdain and disgust. This is really the medicine of a bad female. Silkin stood by indifferently. He remembered very well the day when the eldest brother and second brother were sold by the bad female. Komadanchi begged Silkyan not to sell him. Nanmo, unable to speak, knelt on the ground, crying non-stop. But no matter how much they begged, that bad female was unmoved. At this moment, both had hatred in their eyes. They strongly refused to drink the medicinal powder made by Sigan. Bijun was quite calm and free. Biji, very helpless, could only give in. He took out the pumpkin again, this time, so that DNG Chi and Nanmo could accept it. He deliberately lied. Elder brother, third brother, this meal has nothing to do with the bad female. Eat it yourselves. DNG Chi and Nanmo, who were starving, ate it skillfully. The cooked pumpkin had a slight sweet taste. DNG Chi and Nanmo were conquered by the deliciousness. They didn't leave anything. At that moment, Sion Ro, hearing the noise, came out from one side. She and Sion Nai were sisters. Sion Nai had a rough character. Sion Ro, on the other hand, is the famous violent female of the Jansen tribe. She moved with her fat body. Don Chi Inanmo, you're such good brothers. How about this? I'll buy you too. You can keep Don Chi Inanmo company, right? Silken was the first to stand up. Don't try to intimidate my brother. He ran to the front, but was slapped by Xian-Ro. Beiji wanted to help, but was surrounded by beast males. What are you doing? Don't rush and grab these snake cubs. Xian Nai, who lived next to Xian-Ro, heard the noise and came out to see. Seeing a group of adult males intimidating 4 snake cubs, she thought it was bad. The last time WXQNG and BU were together, they couldn't defeat Xian and had to apologize. But when they returned home, Xian Chuan and others thought they were really wrong. And seeing the weak Xian, she could exert so much effort to protect her cubs. Xian Nai began to change her opinion of Xian. She thought she was a good female. The cubs at Xian's house were being harassed. She had to go tell Xian. Xian Nai moved her fat body. She ran towards Xian. Not good, not good. They're fighting, they're fighting. Xian suddenly stood up. She quickly left the cave and asked, what happened? 4 snake cubs were being beaten. The biological mother went completely mad. She directly rushed to that person's house. What right do you have to hit my cub? Xian stood in front of the 4 cubs. One person in front of a group of beast males. Although this was the first time she saw DNG Chi and Inanmo, it still hurt her a lot. Those 2 children were as thin as sticks. Dan Chi's hand was still injured. Seeing it, her eyes turned red. At that moment, the culprit, Sion Ro, appeared. Xian, you come at just the right time. I also plan to buy your other 2 cubs. I'll give you 2 more skins. Saying this, she threw 2 dirty skins as if they were alms. But Xian stepped on the skins with a stomp. Damn fat bear, my cubs are mine. You won't buy any, and not only that, but I even plan to take Don Chi and Nanmu back. You even want to take Don Chi and Nanmu back, brother? She got so angry she seemed like she was going to explode. But in an instant, she started to laugh. Simenyan won't be jealous of my beautiful body, right? Like a 300-kilo fat woman. Sion Ro had always been quite confident. After all, she just moved her hand, and a large number of males rushed to approach. On the other hand, Sion is this small, thin, dark, and ugly female. No one wants her. Originally, she wanted to hurt the heart of that ugly female, but she was ridiculed by Sion. What does it matter to have many males? In the end, they're just 4 cubs. Although Sion has only had 1 male, she also has 4 intentions. So, from any perspective, it seems I've won. At the moment it was said, the males present changed color. Why do they listen to Sion Ro? They simply want to have their own pups. But just when Syn said that, many people began to wonder if they had chosen the wrong female. They noticed a slight change in the male's attitude. Zhang Ru got even angrier, but soon something occurred to her. Syn, the slavery contract you wrote by hand at that time promised that DNG Chi Inanmo would be my slaves. Don't think you can take these 2 pups. Syn laughed coldly. She didn't remember having such a thing. Even if she did, she wouldn't admit it. However, Xiang Rao claims she can show it. Beiji watches Xian face off against Xiang Rao. It feels like he's in a dream. Mother has really changed, but the 3 brothers don't believe her. What should we do? Mother, don't go. It's dangerous. We're already used to fighting. It's fine. Xian's heart was challenged. How can someone say that they're used to getting beaten? That person is still her pup. Damn. She was a little angry. She smiled. Little ones, Mommy will definitely come to take you back. Upon hearing this, DNG Chi Inanmo became angry. They immediately furrowed their brows. They were sold. The female no longer wants them. She doesn't deserve to be their mother. Sion Ro took Xian to the cave. 3 males also entered. They hadn't walked much. Sion Ro got tired and searched for a stone bench to sit on. The other males were looking for something beneath the stones. Syn also approached. She seized the opportunity to look around. Sion Ro had mistreated her pups like this. How could she not ask for compensation? What matters most in the beast world is salt. The salt in Sion Ro's house was very well hidden. However, Syn easily found it. She secretly opened her space and put a large bag of salt inside. It wasn't long before a male found the slavery contract. Syn took the wooden tablet. The words carved on the wooden tablet weren't clearly post-apocalyptic characters, but strangely, she could understand them. Without a doubt, it was the sales contract for TNGH in Manhwa. Syn furrowed her brow. This old woman, in her past life, really had the heart to sell her own pups. 2 males helped Sion Ro get up. Syn, your pup is my slave. This will never change, you can't deny it. Syn stared at the tablet, her fingers tinged with a hint of green. Her brow furrowed. She was very focused. This is not safe. In just a few seconds, she lifted the tablet and moved it. This is not a slavery contract. It's a work contract. How is this possible? Sion Ro moved her massive body and pushed the tablet. But the letters on it transformed into the help of TNGH in Manhwa. How is this possible? A slavery contract she personally wrote. Sion Ro's head was in chaos at that moment. After a while, she suddenly screamed. Syn, you did this, didn't you? It must have been you who did it. That's the magic they practice. When she held the tablet, she used her supernatural powers to slightly alter some words on the plate. Just a few words. The meaning expressed is completely different. But how could she admit it? The documents are here. Sion Ro, better not get too agitated. If you destroy it accidentally, there will be no proof for my pup to work. Sion Ro was furious. She squeezed the plate until it shattered. Syn watched this scene. Internally, she was pleased. It's destroyed. How wonderful. She could take these pups home. However, Sion Ro motioned for her male to kill her. Syn stepped back a few paces. Her hand moved to her waist. She had never fought with a male from the beast world, much less with more than 10 of Sion Ro's males. She couldn't be careless. At that moment, a deep voice sounded at the entrance of the cave. What are you doing? Syn turned around. Only the village chief and the witch doctor were standing at the cave's entrance. Sion Ro had an exaggerated expression. She screamed that Syn was a monster. The village chief looked at Syn with a thoughtful expression. He asked what was going on. Syn smiled calmly. Village chief. Before, Sion Ro and I signed a work contract. But Sion Ro mistook a deer for a horse. She insists it's a slavery contract. She dreams of taking my pup with just 2 animal skins. Now I come to reclaim my pup. But she refuses to pay. She even wants her male to kill me. Village chief, you know too. I don't have a male by my side. Others think I'm easy to intimidate. Syn even admired her ability to invert black and white. Sion Ro was furious. She gritted her teeth, her breathing irregular. She wanted to speak but couldn't give an explanation. The village chief stared at her for a long time. Finally, he spoke. Why don't you return Syn's pups? Sion Ro was extremely aggrieved. She cried and blew her nose. She shouted that she hated the serpent pups. She only wanted them as slaves. The CNZHNG saw the malice in Sion Ro's eyes. Her first favorite companion was Sion Ro. He was killed by the serpent people. That's why she hated all of them. The people of the village knew this, but the 2 pups were innocent. Moreover, the tribe advocates that mothers raise their pups. The CNZHNG remained silent for a long time before finally speaking. Anyway, you must return the pups to Syn. Sion Ro gritted her teeth. She was about to relent. One of her males began shouting, Madam, our salt is gone. In the beast world, salt is a vital resource that's very scarce. Males can satisfy their salt needs by drinking blood, but females and newborn pups need to consume salt directly. Sion Ro already needs quite a bit of salt for herself. Now there are 80 pups and more. They need even more salt. She had managed to store some salt with great effort, but in a blink, it was all gone. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to the family in this cave. A disaster for sure. Sion Ro immediately glared fiercely at Syn, village chief. She's a thief. She stole the salt from my house. Her whole family are thieves. Under the doubtful gazes of everyone, Syn didn't seem nervous at all. Even if Shan Ro wanted to silence her, she wasn't afraid. She had already carefully stored that salt in her space. Daejun could only think and watch Sion. Watching Sion face Shan Ro, he was desperate. He wanted to rush to protect her. But Ansei didn't stop him. Indeed, Shan Ro shouted that she wanted to search her. Sion nodded in agreement but set a condition. If I don't have Shan Ro's salt on me, I request that Shan Ro compensate me with 2 animal skins. And apologize to me, Shan Ro, to prove that she was not wrong. She no longer thought further. Without hesitation, she accepted Sion's condition. She opened her arms and walked toward Sion. Seeing this, Sion took a step back. She didn't want to be searched by this fat female. Witch doctor, your credibility is high. I would appreciate it if you came to search her. That way, Shan Ro would also be satisfied. She couldn't search her personally. Shan Ro's face inflated with anger. Not long passed. Mei Wen came out. It turned out that Syn didn't have salt. How is this possible? Sion Ro had an expression of disbelief on her face. We accepted the bet. 2 animal skins. Syn raised 2 fingers. Her smile was dazzling. In the end, Syn managed to take the pup and the animal skins. Upon leaving the cave, the witch doctor followed. Syn, your pups are injured. Among them, DNG Chi is seriously injured. His arm is broken and hasn't rested properly. It's likely he won't recover well. His leg was also broken while they were fighting. I can't help you much either. This is magical medicine. Use it. Mei Wen sighed after speaking. Both the arm and leg are broken. This orc pup is probably really finished. Syn humbly thanked several times before approaching the 4 pups. This was also her first time. She carefully observed the other 2 pups. Although DNG Chi was young, you could see a bit of his future charm. His beautiful wheat-colored skin and long purple hair. Nanmo, on the other hand, looked oriental, with green hair, green eyes, and lashes. His skin was quite soft and clear, with a somewhat stiff and distant air. She smiled and asked, "Can they get up?" However, several pups looked at her with suspicion. The atmosphere became tense and uncomfortable for a moment. Finally, it was XQNG who broke the silence. "Can we leave?" "Yes. But how did you do it?" They had clearly been watching the whole time but didn't understand anything. Wasn't the previous contract really a slavery contract? Syn sighed in resignation. She didn't intend to tell the pups about the bad deeds she had done, stealing salt from others' houses, altering the slavery contract of others, inverting black and white and things like that. In short, she hadn't done anything good. She looked up at the sky. These serpent pups will become villains in the future. It won't be because they inherit their genes perfectly, right? The pups helped each other get up. Dan Chi, in pain, had a pale and sweaty face. Syn, seeing this, wanted to hug him, but Dan Chi struggled with all his might. "I don't want you to hug me. Wicked, let go." Syn didn't let go either. "Don't make a scene. Wicked, wicked." Dan Chi bit her hard. He didn't even get hurt when he fought with Shan Ro. In the end, just when it was over, he was bitten by his own puppies, leaving 2 rows of bite marks. Syn was so hurt that she almost cried. She gave Danji a hard slap on the backside. "Little troublemaker, I'm telling you to behave, and you don't listen. Don't you understand things?" Anji's anger struck at her heart. She immediately collapsed. This caused Syn even more of a headache. In fact, the hardest thing to deal with was the puppies at home. After taking DNH back to the cave, she checked the injuries of the 4 puppies again. Indeed, DNG Chi's injury was the most severe. Clearly, they were the original puppies, but she felt as if they were her own flesh and blood. Seeing that they were injured made her heart hurt intermittently. The other 3 puppies only needed some medicine from the witch doctor. DNG Chi had a broken leg. It hurt so much that he was sweating. It hurts so much. Syn gritted her teeth. In her current situation, he couldn't recover on his own. Definitely not. It seemed she would have to use her supernatural powers. Wood-type supernatural powers. They have some healing ability. XQNG, go close the curtain. Once everything was ready, Syn had nothing left to hide. She gently placed her hands over DNG Chi's broken bone. The green wood energy was released. Wood energy has healing properties. It was slowly healing DNG Chi's leg injury. The three puppies on the side stared at SYN, XQNG, and VG, already used to it. Nanmo, however, had a strange expression. This evil female is really a priestess. After SYN's treatment, DNG Chi seemed to feel much better. His breathing had also calmed down a little. Then, SYN began to check his arm. How many days had his arm been broken? DNH had been awake while SYN treated his leg. He was already awake. His eyes were closed, and he barely pressed his lips together. The corners of his lips trembled slightly. It seemed he was holding something back. Beji.syn directly asked the room. Beji quickly answered when called. Mother, the older brother's arm has been broken for 15 days. It has started healing for 5 days, but DNH's hand bone is not set. It's crooked. He's just a 5-year-old snake puppy. Why does he have to endure so much pain? SYN felt a bitter pain in her heart. She closed her eyes for a moment. She crushed all the difficult feelings inside. DNG Chi, mother, is going to realign your bones. Are you okay with that? DNG Chi immediately looked up and stared at her. His eyes were full of mockery and distrust. Evil female, I warn you. Don't even think about touching me. Whether I live or die has nothing to do with you. SYN remained silent, not speaking. At that moment, XQNG asked, what is realigning the bones? Is it breaking the bones and then fixing them again? DNG Chi's eyelids trembled. Don't think you can move. As expected, the evil female didn't want to help him. She wanted to torture him, make him hurt even more, make him wish he was never born. What hatred! Why is she his mother? What hatred! Mother, I'll give you a bone. If you hate your mother, in the future, you'll use this hand to hit your mother. All right? Looking at this puppy who hated her so much, she thought he really wanted to kill her. After all, the original body was killed by her eldest son, Don Chi. SYN bit her lip and smiled with self-criticism. Although she knew Don Chi might really kill her in the future, right now, to her surprise, she still wanted to treat him well. She tightened her hand. The green energy was ready to be released. That night, she barely rested at all. She leaned by Don Chi's bed, watching his body temperature. Fortunately, the beastman's constitution is very good. Don Chi didn't have a high fever. After the danger period passed, SYN, tired, found a spot and immediately fell asleep. When she woke up, Biggie had already prepared sweet potato soup, just like the one she had made before. The little one smiled adorably. He served her a bowl of sweet potato soup. Mother, eat. SYN took the sweet potato soup and smiled slightly at Beiji. Just what I needed for my dry mouth. Holding the soup, she took a sip. It turned out it was already late. She was startled and quickly sat up, seeing Donji sleeping peacefully. She felt relieved. At that moment, she noticed Nanmo's gaze, a thin and small child. He was barely lying on the 1,000-herb cushion. It seemed a slight movement could make him die. Such a beautiful cub, how could they dare to sell them? Nanmo, do you feel better? The child was surprised to hear this. He hid behind a large stone in the cave. Seeing the resistance of the puppies, she still felt a little depressed. Her true self had sold these 2 children. In the eyes of the 2 children, everything that happened to them was caused by her. She couldn't blame them. SYN wiped the sweat from DNG Chi again. Then, she checked his temperature on his forehead. She only got up and left after making sure everything was fine. Just when she left, DNG Chi opened his empty eyes. He bit his lip. Tears welled up in his eyes. At the same time, a big event was also happening in the village. The sacred fire of the village was extinguished in the beast world. Fire is a very majestic and sacred existence. The first chief of the village brought back the spark of the sacred fire from the beast city and learned how to use fire. Since then, the method to control fire in the Rocky tribe has only been known by the village chief. It has been passed down from generation to generation, and the saint has a place in the heart of the tribe. It is a spirit that cannot be forgotten. It's essential for survival. But now, the sacred fire has been extinguished. This means that their village is also about to disappear. The village chief, in an instant, seemed to have aged many years. When SYN returned from the small forest, she heard a series of urgent wolf howls. It made her feel very uneasy. She immediately ran back to her cave. She found a few of her puppies. But when she looked around, she couldn't find DNG Chi, XQNG, and Nanmo. Those two puppies also ignored her. Now don't make any noise. DNG Chi has just recovered. If he moves now, his bones will dislocate again. Then it will be adjusted. Vijay approached. He raised his little face, fair, tender, and adorable. Look, the older brother has disappeared. Syn observed her surroundings. She saw no signs of a struggle. A wave of anger surged in her heart. She will go even if she has to leave her arms and legs behind. Truly, my good pup. This is the first time she's angry. This is her first time being so angry. If we let this go, that guy could really be finished. They can only send XQNG and Vijay to look for him first. But she still has a question. What happened to that wolf's howl? Vijay turned around to explain. The sacred fire had gone out. The village chief ordered the males who were hunting outside to return. Everyone was discussing how to revive the sacred fire. Upon hearing this, the three little ones looked at Syn. Syn has the ability to light a fire, but this matter is too big, so they dared not speak of it outside. However, Syn didn't have much of a reaction to this. What happens in the tribe will solve. First, let's find Donji. From the way Don Chi feels about her, it's clear she won't find Don Pei herself. Let the pups try looking first. I'm really impressed. Ever since she crossed over, she's been on the path of searching for the pups. The howls of wolves outside the cave didn't stop. This was starting to disturb the people. At that moment, Xiang Rao came running, out of breath. She shouted to the village chief to gather everyone. Syn set aside the broom she was holding. She glanced at Nan Mo, who was hiding. She followed Zhang Nai and left the cave. Outside the cave, there was a great commotion. The news of the sacred fire being extinguished spread throughout the Yanzi tribe. The orcs were all disheartened. Syn looked around. Was the sacred fire really that important? She didn't quite understand it. Zhang Nai patiently explained its significance to her. Despite explaining the seriousness of the situation, Syn still appeared indifferent. Xianai was so angry that she muttered for a long time. With the gathering of the beastly males, a strange phenomenon appeared in the village. Every female was surrounded by several or dozens of males. Even Xianai, beside her, had 7 or 8 people standing with her. On the other hand, Yn was alone, making her especially notable. As the most unattractive female in the tribe, no male was willing to pair up with her. The tribe had always supported her, but they also despised her. Even her serpent-like pups were not well received. But recently, Syn seemed to have experienced a small change. She started fulfilling her responsibilities as a mother. Not only did she rush to deal with her pup's insect illness, but she also brought Don Chi and Nan Mo back home. But everyone was still waiting to see her make a fool of herself. However, at that moment, Tyson made a leap by himself. He jumped directly behind Syn. The powerful presence made Syn tense from head to toe. She controlled herself, slowly turned her head, and raised her face, covered with spots. I am Tyson. There are no males here. I've come by the village chief's orders to protect you. The first time Tyson asked to appear, Syn was worried about Biggie's illness. She didn't even look at him and immediately rejected him. So for Syn, this was her first meeting with Tyson. She coldly looked him over 3 times, at the handsome silver-haired boy. Then she glanced at the females surrounded by males not far away, thinking it might be some unwritten rule in the tribe. She accepted the arrangement in silence, but she didn't know that her assumption made the other females of the Jansen tribe envious, ruining everything. The strongest and most handsome male, Tyson, standing next to the ugliest and thinnest female, Sion. What a strange combination. Tyson was the most sought-after male in the clan. Almost every female had offered him an olive branch for pairing, but he refused them all. It was thought that his mind was set on seeking power, with no intention of becoming anyone's mate. Now he was standing behind a female. How could the other females present bear this, with sharp, knife-like gazes? Cryan didn't care at all. She remained silent. She looked around. There was no sign of her pup, Donji. She looked at Sion-Ro and gave him a warning glance. If that fat, hungry one dared to bother her pup, she would make him pay. At that moment, Biggie ran from the side toward her. He grabbed Syn with a look of panic. Mother, we found the older brother. The older brother wants revenge. He wants to burn Sion-Ro's cave. DNG Chi now has fire in his hand. It's not surprising that there's fire. Syn's cave has always had a small flame burning, so they could cook at any time. But the good news is that the sacred flame was extinguished. However, the flame in DNG Chi's hand has been there for a long time. If DNG Chi drops this fire, how to extinguish the sacred fire would be completely confusing. Syn narrowed her eyes again. She grabbed Biggie's hand and quickly ran towards Sionro's house. At this point, most of the orcs in the Jansen tribe were still in the square. Now there were no orcs at the door of Sionro's house. XQNGT, take DNG Chi's torch. But still, block DNG Chi's way, older brother. No, don't be impulsive. DNG Chi limped with a cold expression. XQNG, let go of it. Xiongru intimidated her brothers. Now, his arms and legs were broken. Since that's the case, he would die with Xiongru. Dengqi's voice was steady and determined. XQNG gritted his teeth, tears nearly falling. He understood DNG Chi well. The beastmen had lost their hands and feet. Unable to work, they would be abandoned by the tribe and devoured by beasts. If there's still a chance to choose, the last chance to take revenge for oneself, he couldn't say that. He just didn't understand. Why were his brothers' lives so hard? In the end, he released DNG Chi. He didn't know if his choice was correct. Maybe deep down, he thought the same as DNG Chi. He wanted to destroy this injustice. DNG Chi limped. He arrived at the entrance of the Sion-Ro cave. The light from the fire illuminated his small, pale face. Despite his weak body and pale face, his expression was very firm. He extended his hand. The torch in his hand was about to set the Sion-Ro cave on fire. However, at that moment, a cold laugh came from behind him. My little pup really has a lot of potential. At such a young age, he dares to learn from others and play with fire. There's no doubt he'll be a great villain in the future. Syn's voice was cold, with a hint of arrogance. The eyelid of TNG Chi twitched slightly. This person had arrived when he was holding the torch. Deep inside, he was conflicted. Maybe he only wanted to use this action to get someone's attention. He hoped that person could be his mother. But at the same time, he knew very well that woman could be cruel enough to sell him. Why should he care about what she does? But now, she was really standing in front of him. He became even angrier. Setting fire has nothing to do with you. Looking at the miserable child in front of him, Syn was angry and also hurt. Perhaps what you wanted to burn wasn't the cave, but me, the one who sold you Xion-Ro. If you really have the courage, then come and burn me. Syn's words grew more oppressive. DNGC felt overwhelmed. Suddenly, his heart hurt. He shouted at Syn, I want to burn you. I really want to burn you. Why? Why me? Why did you sell me? I'm not afraid of not having food. I'm not afraid of starving or freezing, much less am I afraid of being beaten. But, why did you sell me? The young man roared in anger. The hurt expression of the young man reached Syn's eyes without missing a single detail. His words struck Syn's heart one by one. I won't sell you. Selling DNGC is a matter of the original body. The current Syn will not sell her own little pup. I don't believe you. You've already sold me, evil female. With those words, DNGH moved towards the cave. Sion almost jumped and hugged him tightly. But unfortunately, the torch fell into the field of grass. In an instant, a great fire began to spread. XQNG and Vijay were terrified. DNGH was also confused. He looked at Syn in surprise. Fire is a sacred existence. Beastmen are very afraid of fire. Even when seeing Syn cooking with fire in the cave, Vijay and the others still feared the fire. Syn immediately grabbed a whole animal skin next to her and threw it onto the fire. But clearly, it was already too late. At that moment, a horrible scream suddenly rang out. Sionro's deafening voice echoed throughout the tribe. Syn, you damn evil female. It wasn't enough that you stole my salt. You dared to steal the spark of the sacred fire. Did you use the sacred fire to burn my cave? Sionro's voice was especially loud. Orcs also have an exceptional sense of hearing. So quickly, the village chief arrived. All the males of the village arrived. No one could believe it. The thinnest, ugliest, and weakest female in the tribe, Syn, had really reignited the sacred fire, and the same Sion Ro, who had shouted for her to be expelled from the tribe, became the object of rejection. When the village chief and other males arrived, Syn had just finished throwing the last scoop of sand. After the village chief reacted, he suddenly started lamenting. "Oh heavens! Oh earth! Sacred fire! The sacred fire has been extinguished!" Xiang Rao also seized the opportunity to shout. "Syn, you really are an evil female. You dared to steal the sacred fire. And you dare to use the sacred fire to burn my cave. The Rockland tribe will not let you escape. The village chief will punish you. You and your 4 troublesome snake pups. We should expel you from the Zhangjiang tribe." Her male also started shouting. They accused her of being a spy sent by another tribe. The moment this was mentioned, the orcs in the tribe looked at each other. They also started to look at Syn in a hostile manner. At that moment, Tyson stood up again. He believed that Syn was not that kind of female. The village chief shouted frantically about the sacred fire. He had no interest in listening to Tyson. However, the orcs began to murmur. "What can you expect from someone who even sold her own pup? What else wouldn't she do? After all these years, the tribe has fed her in vain. Now she repays the tribe with ingratitude, not caring about the safety of the whole tribe. Why keep a female like this? Why keep her?" In an instant, the whole cave echoed, "Expel Syn! We must expel Syn!" But at that moment, Tyson opened his arms and stood in front of Syn. "If you're going to expel Syn, then expel me too." How can this be? Tyson was the first warrior of the clan. He had a lot of prestige in the clan. The village chief knew he could not expel Tyson. DNG stared at the scene in front of him. His heart was in chaos. What's going on? Wasn't he the one who did it? Why is everything being blamed on that evil female? He limped on one leg. Panting heavily, he shouted at the other orcs. "It's not her! It's not her who did it! It's me! It's me! I did it! I take responsibility! Who are you to say that about her without knowing?" Those words pleased Xiang Rao. "See? I'm not wrong. They admitted it themselves." Xiang Ru's words were widely accepted by the orcs in the clan. The cry to expel Xiang echoed again. Xiang Ru looked at Ziyang, who was being ostracized by everyone. She showed a victorious smile. Xingyang looked coldly at this scene. Suddenly, she also began to laugh. "If they expel me from the Yangxiang tribe, I'm afraid they won't be able to reignite the sacred fire in a day." The sad village chief, hearing this, suddenly came to life. He grabbed Xingyang and asked what that meant. Zhang simply smiled faintly. "If I can extinguish it, of course, I can also reignite it." The village chief's eyes immediately brightened. He released the hands that were holding her. In an instant, the village chief evaluated the pros and cons. He promised that as long as Xingyang could reignite the sacred fire, he would accept any demand. At that moment, Xingyang threw a cold smile at Xiangru. Xiangru suddenly felt a chill. As expected, the next second she saw Ziyang pointing at her. "I can ignite the sacred fire, but I want her to leave the Yangxiang tribe forever." These words, once spoken, left not only the village chief, but everyone present dumbfounded. The females in the tribe were already few. Expelling Shan Ro was simply a fatal blow to the tribe. The chief, in a difficult situation, asked Xingyang to change her condition. He even knelt. A village chief lowering himself so much. She didn't want to reach a deadlock. So she looked gratefully at Tyson. It seemed to say, "Thank you for helping me earlier." Then she asked aloud, "Hey Tyson, you're the warrior of the beast god. Can you help me reignite the sacred fire?" The man, blushing, nodded. "They can't reignite the sacred fire. Sion is a liar. She definitely can't reignite the sacred fire." Sion-RO was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. If she really reignites the sacred fire, Sion's position will definitely rise. "There will be no place for her in this tribe," she screamed, asking her male to stop her. But the other beastmen looked at her with disdain. "Females are petty and delicate. Everyone knows that." The tribe wasn't very large. Everyone also knew she had issues with Xingyan. But when it came to important matters, everyone was still rational. Sion didn't even bother to pay attention to her. She whispered something to Tyson. "He's very smart. He listens to this woman at once." Then he straightened up. "I'm gonna get some straw." He then looked for a stick. He collected the sand the previous woman had left. He found the fire sparks that Siwayan mentioned. He gently touched them with the straw. Then he blew lightly. The beastmen present didn't dare to make a sound. A small beastman wanted to speak, but his own beast father tightly covered his mouth. The sacred fire was too sacred. Every step to reignite the sacred fire. No one dared to miss it. Soon, the straw in Taizen's hands began to show flames. It didn't take long before the straw was burning again. The beastmen of the Yangxiang tribe were completely astonished. Those who could manipulate flames were not the great priest Bara Diagonal Priestess. If they were messengers sent by the beast god, the wolf beastmen and the bear beastmen started howling together. The Yangxiang tribe was safe. Cyan might not know that her action would cause a great impact on her people. Taizen also secretly looked at her. This woman is beautiful and pure. In this dangerous beast world, there's no protective male by her side. He made a decision. I'll protect her well. After resolving this, Xianyang took Dongqi home, holding her breath. Inside the cave, little Nanmo, as always, hid in the corner. Dongqi slightly pursed his lips. He bit his lower lip hard. He sat on the bed and turned his back. Xian couldn't help but laugh. Where did the courage you had earlier go? Why don't you even dare to look at me when we get home? Dongqi didn't say anything. The young boy's small shoulders were trembling. Xian suddenly realized something was wrong. She quickly approached. The little one already had red eyes. He was crying uncontrollably. I don't need you to care. Dongqi not only pushed her away, but also hid his face in the beast skin. Beiji, to ease the tense atmosphere, quickly went to pull Xian. Mom, I'm hungry. After Xian left, Manhwa finally came out of the corner. He climbed onto the bed carefully. He patted Dongqi's back gently, but still, Dongqi had no intention of lifting his head. After Xian prepared dinner, she knew the two little ones didn't want to eat with her, so she let Beiji serve a portion separately. But then, when she was about to wash the dishes, she realized Dongqi's portion was untouched. Xian sighed, lifted the rice bowl, then hugged the little one tightly. Dongqi froze for a moment. Without thinking, he wanted to retreat, but being hugged, he couldn't move at all. At that moment, a small wooden spoon was extended in front of him. Open your mouth. Ah! He didn't know why. Naturally, he opened his mouth. A full spoonful of food was put into his mouth. Suddenly, he felt a wave of humiliation inside him. He spat out the food. I don't want you to feed me! Cecilian approached, laughing coldly. Little one, I'm not feeding you. I'm forcing you to eat. Don't you realize? Open your mouth. Oh, don't make me use violence. Bad female. Bad female. You're the worst female in the world. A smile approaching darkness, like smoke that fades. I'm a wicked woman. So what? Listen to me. Not only will I make you eat, but I'll also make you scream. Mom, you don't believe me? Try it. Don Chile struck out in anger. Bad female. He paused. Wait, when I grow up, I'll definitely get my revenge, but what strength can a little one have? Xian thought it was like tickling. She laughed with a hee-hee and gave him another small mouthful. The last bowl of my non-drink. In the end, Don Qi finished his rice bowl clean. The next day, upon waking, Xian began preparing to go hunting. Bei, seeing this, showed an expression of curiosity. Don Qi was about to ask what she was going to do when he realized that his incredible mother was leaving the house. This made him very nervous. Mom, hunting is for male beasts. Female beasts should stay at home playing, not hunt. But he didn't fully understand. Right now, food at home was insufficient. The four little ones were in their growing stage. The beast world is not a peaceful world. We must store food to face various risks. She patted Becky's little head and smiled. But at home, only I can hunt now. Onzain, who had been silent for a long time, spoke. Female, stop. Aha! He didn't call her a bad female. He missed the word bad. This was considered a small progress. Onzain furrowed his brows as he looked at her. Females can't hunt. Their bodies are too fragile. They're too weak. Their strength is also not great. They can't even defeat the long-eared beast. She's going out now. Is she going to leave the four of us unattended? A sense of unease spread in Onzain's heart. He gritted his teeth. He didn't know why, but he felt very angry. But Xian still left the cave, watching her figure disappear. Onzain was so angry that he gritted his teeth. I knew it! The bad female doesn't want us anymore! Nanmo, who had been hiding in the corner, lay silently on the bed, not saying a word. Beiji also felt extremely uneasy. In fact, it wasn't these pups' fault for not trusting Xian. They simply didn't feel secure. Big brother, second brother, third brother. If you want mommy to stay, you need to be a little kinder to her. Onzain gritted his teeth. The veins in his face were marked. He was both angry and a victim. She's done such extreme things to me. I will never forgive her in this life. Beiji didn't know how to comfort Onzain either. In the end, he chose silence. On the other side of the back mountain, Xian was digging a trap with a shovel. She didn't know how other beasts hunted, but she had her own hunting method. Once the hole was dug, she placed wooden sticks and wild herbs on top. She walked around the forest. She wasn't good with direction. She didn't dare to go too far and could only search a little nearby. She found a tree with purple fruits. She picked the purple fruit. She tasted it. Her tongue went numb. Xian's eyes lit up instantly. Paralyzing fruit. This is paralyzing fruit. In the future, it can be used as an anesthetic during treatment. It can also be made into anesthetic powder and such things. She quickly found a large leaf, placed the paralyzing fruit inside, and stored it in her space. The purple crystal fruit was not large, and she collected them all. The plant resources in the beast world were abundant. They couldn't be compared to the post-apocalyptic world, which was completely barren in resources. Very illuminated and very excited. On the way back, she even saw a huge lettuce that was as big as a person. Now the scene for tonight was secured. She walked back like a strong man, carrying the lettuce. In her hand, she also carried a long-eared beast. Upon hearing the noise, Onze and Niveji ran out of the cave at the same time. When they saw Xian returning loaded down, both of their faces showed expressions of surprise. Xian placed the large lettuce on the ground. She visited the two little ones. "Do you know how to tan beast skins?" Veggie immediately smiled. "Mom, I know." Xian carefully peeled the skin off the long herbivorous beast with snake-like scales. While skinning, she thought to herself, "It's incredible. How can these snake scales be so useful?" At that moment, Veggie was very relaxed. He lifted his face with joy. "Mom, wait until Veggie grows up. Veggie will reach the level of a purple crystal beast man at time. The snake scales of Veggie will be for you, Mom." Xian gently patted her youngest son's head. Ogdense kept a safe distance. His previous premonition was not wrong. This traitor Veiyuji was even trying to please that bad female. Traitor. Scoundrel. Xian finished skinning the long-eared beast. Bei Ling took it to the river to tan it. The fourth had just left. Onsen approached her with a disdainful expression. "Don't think Bengahai is so impressive. Tanning beast skins is a basic skill for male beasts. Not just him. I, and the older brothers, can also do it." Xian detected a jealous tone in his words. But what could be done? Saying it was one thing. Doing it was another thing. Anyway, she now felt that Bang Yi was very impressive. Onsen felt a knot in his heart. With a good sense, he turned away. After Xian cleaned the long-eared beast, she then piled up some coarse salt and hung it on the branches in front of the cave. Meat, processed with salt. After drying like this, it could be preserved for a long time. It's now spring. It's the season of abundance of resources. But in winter, many adult males will starve to death. Onsen felt somewhat confused. He stared at her silently for a while before responding. "Female, should you tell the village chief your food preservation method?" "Should I tell the village chief?" If the tribe knew how to preserve food, it might allow many more beasts to survive. Cryan didn't respond but countered with a question. Is the medicine good for the village chief and the beasts of the tribe? These days, she was also secretly observing. The village chief still acts impartially. Cyan Ro is clearly not good with her offspring. As for the others, she still hadn't observed them. Onsen looked away, avoiding eye contact, but still answered her question. The beasts of the tribe are not very kind to us, but the village chief is somewhat tolerant with us. Sometimes we are so hungry we can't go on. The village chief still gives us food. After hearing this, Cyan had a clear idea. Whether she should tell the village chief the food preservation method, she would consider it. After learning about the difficulties of winter in the beast world, Cyan began preparing the lettuce. One half of the lettuce could be divided to eat today and tomorrow. The other half of the lettuce she planned to dehydrate to turn into dried vegetables. At that moment, the small and adorable Beiji returned, looking at his little red hands. Cyan couldn't help but feel touched. "Good boy, thank you for your effort." Beiji shook his head. He was very happy to help his mom. The long-eared animals in the beast world are large. He signaled to the four. He should be able to make 2 skirts from snow-white beast skin. After calculating, cutting directly with snake scales, but how to sew them was a problem. At that moment, Beiji pulled out some strands of hair for Xian. "Mom, use this." Her snow-white hair indeed matched very well with the white fur of the long-eared rabbit. Soon, the two adorable beast skirts were ready. "Beiji, come and try one on." The four couldn't believe it. "Mom, did you make this for me? Look how your beast skin skirt is torn." Under Onsen's envious gaze, Beiji put on his new snow-white skirt. He looked so adorable. His heart raced. This was made by his mother. His little mouth even opened wide, smiling. However, the next second, he couldn't help but show his original form. Upon seeing the little snake, the size of a doll, Xingyang nearly fainted. His greatest fear, small or big, was snakes. Ontessin beside him also exclaimed that it wasn't good. The bad females are extremely afraid of snakes. As soon as they show their beast form, she would attack them like crazy. Mother. Beiji finally realized what had happened. The snake's tongue was about to transform again, but unexpectedly, it fell into a warm embrace. This is her little one. Even if it's a snake, it's still her little one. Xingyang swallowed nervously, suppressing his fear of the soft animals, though his mother is terrified. "But Mom has to adapt to you." Beiji's heart was racing. He couldn't help but bury himself in his mother's arms. Sichuan stiffened even more. Onsen, upon seeing this scene, was stunned. Even Nanmo, hidden in the corner, stared motionlessly at them. Cyan controlled her trembling voice and asked Beiji, "What form do you usually like? You're still babies." They prefer the beast form. But as soon as they transform into beast form, it scares Safian. So they try to maintain their human form. Saikian stroked Beiji's beautiful scales. Then she calmed down. If they like the beast form, let them use the beast form. Even though Mom is scared, she will try to adapt to you. The fourth one, excited, came over and kissed Siklian on the cheek. The next second, the woman fell to the ground completely. Oh my God! She felt like she had just seen the king of hell. Beiji instantly transformed into a human. Mom, did I scare you?" "Sorry." Xian looked at the cave's ceiling. Her eyes were clouded. She touched her little heart that had been frightened. "Beiwu, put on the new beast skin skirt. It seems the road to getting close to the snake cub is still long and hard." After adjusting her emotions, Xian signaled to Onsen. "Onsen, come here." Onsen reluctantly came over. Xian pulled out another beast skin skirt. She put it on Onsen. The little one was confused, with big doll eyes. He asked, "Is this for me?" Xian nodded. "I made different marks for your beast skin skirt and Bei Ling's." Bei Ling has a character. Bei engraved. Yours has a character. Onsen. Onsen didn't know how to read, but he recognized that it was his name. "But why is it like this? I haven't been good to you." Xian only smiled. Then she wanted to reach out and stroke his head. The little one not only moved away, but also tried to take off the beast skin skirt. Xian didn't even look up. "It looks good, don't take it off. If you take it off, you won't have dinner." Onsen's hand stopped. He stood nervously to one side. This wasn't what he wanted. It was that female who forced it on him. After Cryan went to make dinner, Onsen sat silently in a corner. His hands were hidden under the beast skin skirt, stroking it over and over. When Beiji was nearby, he was so jealous in his heart. Now he also had one. The small snow-white beast skin skirt was nothing compared to the old hard and worn one. It was much better. The most important thing was that it was handmade by that bad female. His heart was still beating fast at that moment. And Nanmo, who had been observing the entire process from the side, hid back into the cave. It will never be in vain. Beiji suddenly aligned with Cryan. Why did Beiji suddenly turn to him? He didn't understand either. Why did the bad female make beast skins for Onsen and Beiji? Even less did he understand. Why could he and Don Chi only be the abandoned ones? Don Chi also opened his eyes a little, but quickly closed them again. He bit his lip and continued to bury his head in the beast skin. At night, Si Yan cooked a large pot of stir-fried lettuce with chunks of meat. Then she heated up the bone soup she had made earlier. That also counted as a good feast. Don Chi's condition seemed to have improved quite a bit. Not wanting to be fed by Si Yan, he asked Beiji to bring him the bowl, and he ate slowly. After dinner, Si Yan boiled a large barrel of hot water. "Onsen, come over and take a bath." This time, luckily, the little one didn't resist. He walked obediently toward her. But when it came to washing his hair, he suddenly refused with a stern, threatening voice. "Don't wash my hair." After being fierce, he felt that he had been too rough. He averted his gaze and repeated softly, "Don't wash my hair." Even though he didn't know the reason anymore, he decided to respect it. After the bath, Onsen was completely flushed. The bad female had given him a bath. He felt embarrassedly happy. Sitting on the grass mat with a new bee-skin skirt, his heart was beating hard. So hard that he really wanted to turn into his snake form. But he was worried he would scare the 5 females. But Beiji had already done that before. Why couldn't he? Thinking this, he really transformed. A green snake appeared beside him in the cave. It slithered quickly in front of Xian. Directly in front of her, it stuck out its tongue. Xian's face instantly turned green. "Oh my god. Onsen?" The green-headed snake arrogantly stuck out its tongue. "I'm pregnant! It's me!" The little one. Xian's heart tightened. She insisted to herself. "It's her little one. I can't be afraid. I can't be afraid. If I'm afraid, the little ones will be sad." Xian reached out to stroke Onsen's head, but he immediately ran away. After transforming into his snake form, Onsen seemed to have been liberated. Twisting around, he finally curled up like an incense spiral and fell asleep on the grass mat. Beiji finished and returned. Seeing how the blue sky transformed into a snake, he also transformed. He curled up in a spiral on the grass mat. Xian only felt, "Oh my god, I'm dead." Does her little one really plan to stay in beast form? But remembering what Beiji said, snake cubs really enjoy using their beast forms. So, they let them. At dawn the next day, Xian prepared the leftover lettuce and pumpkin, cutting them and serving them after slicing. Then, squeezing out the water with her hands, she laid them out to dry in the sun. Just after finishing this, she heard a commotion by the river. Siki and Beigu's noisy voices. Quickly, she left the vegetables and went over, just in time to see the pups from the Sion-Ro household bullying Onsen and the others. The pups from the Sion-Ro household were already 10 years old, while those from her household were only 5. Just by looking at them, it was clear they were much smaller. What was even more excessive was that one of the pups from the Sion-Ro household grabbed Onsen's hair tightly. They intentionally lifted his hair, revealing the other half of his face, which was half a horrifying and terrifying face. There were burn marks on the top. Before, Onsen always covered that half of his face with his bangs. Xian was suddenly stunned. Onsen never let her touch his hair. Was this the reason? The half of his injured face was exposed to the air. The little pride of the snake was severely trampled. He struggled desperately to free himself. "Let go of me." He didn't want people to see the burned half of his face, this ugly half face. Beiji also punched and kicked the cubs. However, his weak strength was useless. The cubs laughed even more smugly and even dragged him to the edge of the water. "Onsen, look at yourself. You're the ugliest male in the Yanxiang tribe. No female will want you in the future. Not even your mother will want you. Let go now." The words of Shangan hit the softest part of Onsen's heart. That bad female, if she sees this, it's even less likely she'll like him. She's never liked him. Onsen's eyes filled with tears. The way she looked at him was as if she were looking at a horrible waste. Even the pregnant female wouldn't. "Let go now. Don't let the bad female see your terrifying face. She doesn't want to see it. If she sees it, it's even less likely she'll like you. I'm telling you, let go." The force of Xiansan's words was suppressing him. The way she looked at him seemed like she was looking at an ugly piece of trash. "How many pups do you have in your house? They should come to our house as slaves." Seeing this scene, Xiansan felt like she was going to explode in anger right there. She picked up a stone and threw it. The stone hit Xiansan's head. "Let go of my pup!" Xiansan saw that Sima had arrived. "Let him go immediately." She immediately released her hand. Onsen only took a glance and quickly looked down. He frantically arranged his hair. She saw, looking at Onsen, who was trembling all over. Xiansan felt a pain in her heart. His disheveled hair frustrated Onsen. He screamed while shaking his hands. "Bad female! I hate you! I detest you!" After speaking, he ran off without looking back. She saw with her own eyes the face full of scars of her son, and those words, full of hate. It was the first time Sikyan saw Onsen showing such intense hatred. What really happened? Could separation cause a 5-year-old child to collapse like that? Filled with doubts, Sipian returned to the cave. She thought maybe Don Chi, being the oldest, could answer her question. However, Don Chi was surprised to find out that she had seen Onsain's face. He jumped up from the bed. Xian felt the atmosphere tense. She was waiting for Don Chi's response, but it didn't come for a long time. She almost gave up. Then Don Chi spoke. He chuckled. "You're truly fortunate. The things she did herself, don't they exist? But Nanmo, Onsei, and Nijo, we will never forget. Those wounds have always been there. It's impossible that just because she gave them some good food, they would be generous enough to forgive her." "It's you! You destroyed her face with your own hands!" Don Chi shouted with rage. Tears fell from his chin. It turns out that of the 4 little ones, the one who clung to her and depended on her the most was Onsain. But the original one was always running around recklessly. Once, there was a big fire in the forest. Onsen, worried about her, ran out. However, beastmen are naturally afraid of fire. They had to reveal their true form. The original form is afraid of snakes. It went crazy immediately. Even when her face was burned, Onsain still didn't give up. Instead, she prayed that her mother would help her. "But you let her die." Don Chi's expression was filled with sarcasm. He stared at this wicked mother, almost as if mocking himself. Don Chi's words left Xian completely stunned. She couldn't say a word. Her heart gradually grew cold, as if someone was squeezing it tightly. Onsain has this fiery character, and he also has a heart. Don't be angry with him. How could she be angry with him? Until now, she finally understood this twisted little one. Why did he hold so much resentment toward her? The original one truly didn't deserve to be a mother. She deserves it for ending her life with her head separated. She had finally softened her relationship with Onsain. It seemed like it had fallen back to a freezing point again, until she left the cave. Her mind kept replaying Don Chi's words. She sighed deeply, wondering where she should go to look for Onsain. She looked up and saw Tyson crouching in a tree. He seemed to be deep in thought, sitting there motionless. "Tyson." Xian's voice made Tyson snap back to reality. He immediately jumped down from the tree. "Have you still not found Onsain? I have a good nose. I'll help you search." The wolf pack's nose is sharp. He quickly found Onsain's direction. Onsain had hidden himself in a cave in the back mountain forest. He hugged himself tightly, trembling with fear. She really saw him. The mother who cooked for him with tenderness. She will no longer exist. "Mother." Onsain is so scared. Xian took 2 steps forward nervously, but just as she approached the cave, she hesitated a bit more. The original form is dead since she used the original form's body. She took advantage of the original form's benefits. She should bear the responsibility of the original form, as well as its problems. Xian took a deep breath and then walked toward the hidden cave. However, just as she entered, the small, sensitive one in the cave shouted, "Who is it? Don't come closer! Don't come closer!" In his panic, Onsain's face even showed scales. Before Xian could react, his head had already been broken. Seeing the blood, the little reptile was even more confused, shouting for her not to come closer. Tyson, hearing the sound, immediately entered. "Onsen, you've broken your mother's head. In the Yangxiang tribe, there are no young ones who can harm a female." Onsain trembled in fear. He kept shouting, "Don't come near, please don't come near." Xian stopped Tyson. She took a deep breath and slowly approached Onsain. "Onsain, don't be afraid, it's me. I'm your mother." She tried to use her gentleness to slowly bring him back to reality. However, Onsain's expression changed in an instant. His snake-like eyes were trembling, full of terror. The next second, he transformed into a green anaconda. He didn't dare to attack Cilian again. He disappeared from the cave at an incredible speed. Even with great speed, there wasn't time to stop him. Onsain, in panic, couldn't hear what Cilian was saying at all. He just rushed forward, not thinking. In a moment of desperation, Xian could only summon her wood ability. Vines began to sprout from her hands. The little Onsain didn't realize he had moved so fast. Xian could still catch up with him. He was even more scared and began running uncontrollably. This place was already a dangerous forest. Furthermore, the darkness was increasing. Some of the dangerous beasts in the forest were already coming out to hunt. A sound echoed. He was struck by a gray eagle. The eagle tribe and the snake tribe are natural enemies. Onsain also realized. He was even more terrified. In his panic, he lost his sense of direction. The male eagle quickly dove down. In an instant, it grabbed Onsain. Xian pulled out her pistol and shot twice at the eagle. The bullets hit the eagle's wing. The eagle began to fall toward the cliff. In a critical moment, Xian grabbed Onsain's tail. With one hand holding Onsain, She frantically unleashed her wood power. The vines clung tightly to the steep cliff wall. Zion and Onsain were hanging there. It could be said that they were in great danger. "Mother! Mother!" Onsain screamed urgently. She gave a faint, bitter smile. "At least you managed to call me mother." Now, they neither climbed nor descended. They were in the middle of the cliff. Onsain puckered his lips. Suddenly, he began to cry loudly, very childishly. In this desperate situation, Onsain lamented deeply. I don't want to hurt you. I'm just scared. I really don't want to hurt you." How could Cyan allow herself to be angry with him? She gritted her teeth. "Onsain is hanging on me. Hurry, I can't hold you much longer." Onsain didn't dare to resist. He climbed up Zion's arm. Stones rolled down the cliff, and the echo of Tyson's voice also resonated. "Tom Jan, find a place to stay. I'm gonna find someone to rescue you." After speaking, the man ran back. Meanwhile, Zion found a rock to lean on. The rock was large. The surrounding vines weren't very high. A small space squeezed Zion and Onsain together. At that moment, Onsain had returned to his human form. He curled up in Zion's arms. He was agitated and scared. Once back in his mother's warm embrace, he soon felt a sense of security. He cried while hugging Zion until he was too exhausted and then fell asleep. The little one truly had no heart or conscience. Zion couldn't help but stroke his little face. Night had fully fallen. Tizen couldn't fly. It was unknown how long it would take for them to be rescued. Thinking of this, she adjusted her position to hold Onsain properly. The little one in her arms shed tears from the corner of his eyes. He clearly hated her. He had clearly decided never to forgive her. But he didn't know why. When he saw his mother rushing toward him, when she jumped with him without worrying about anything, it seemed like nothing mattered. Onsain closed his eyes. In his mind were only the good times he had with Zion. He was very tired, but also very happy. That was it. Zion held him and sat on top of the cliff all night. It was a good place to watch the stars and the sunrise. Zion silently watched the sky. She felt peaceful and content. It is not known when Onsain woke up. He realized that he had been in his mother's arms all night. His small face was completely red. Looking at the adorable appearance of his son, Zion couldn't help but tease him. "Onsain, we're here. There's no food or drink. We might die of thirst or hunger. Are you scared?" Onsain lowered his head. He seemed to be thinking seriously about this. "We're gonna die. But it will be with Mom, so he's not afraid." His cheeks were flushed with pride. It melted Zion's heart. "Yours. I won't let you go hungry." In front of him, Simeon opened up his space. He pulled out a bottle of mineral water and also a chocolate. "What's this?" Onsain took the chocolate and sniffed it curiously. It was black and dark, with a strange shape. It wouldn't be poison, right? Although he thought that, he still opened his mouth and took a bite. A sweet and rich taste, with a delicate texture, spread instantly throughout his mouth. The little snake opened his eyes in surprise. This black poison really tastes so good. Onsain's emotions were almost all written on his face. This made Cyan laugh out loud. While eating, he remembered his disfigured face again. He was the ugliest male in the Janxiang tribe. The adult beastmen didn't want him. The little ones teased him. He didn't deserve anyone's affection. His mother didn't want him because he was so ugly. Just when he was thinking about this, a wild, poisonous snake approached Zizou. Onsain's pupils turned vertical in an instant. However, the wild snake wasn't afraid. This little one, who hadn't evolved into a crystal beast yet, his little laziness turned into benign crystal. Suddenly, he rushed towards Xian. After his brother and mother disappeared, he completely went crazy. The little mute, who only dared to cry while hiding behind rocks. He planned to go for revenge alone. Xiangru's family wouldn't let them escape easily. "Hey, Onsain and Min, which of his relatives will be hurt this time?" Although he's a cold and heartless serpent beastman, he also has things he wants to protect. Nanmo arrived at Xiangru's house. Just as he was about to do something, he heard Shan Ro shouting. She was insulting her male's incompetence. He couldn't even deal with a little female. "Whoever kills civilian, I'll give them a child." She had used this condition countless times. It always worked. Indeed, someone offered a green juice. They captured one of Cillian's little ones as a hostage, and then tricked her to the edge of the cliff. At that moment, Cillian would be nothing but a toy in the hands of the master female. Shan Ro laughed loudly in the cave. She seemed very satisfied with this plan. Meanwhile, Nanmo hid in the darkness. Due to his anger, his body emitted a dark color. It was also because of his intense emotional fluctuation. He was soon discovered by the male beastmen of Xian-Ro. Speaking of the king of Rome, he appeared. Xian-Ro looked at him in great surprise. "You're here now. Don't you hate Xian too? Let's collaborate, we just need to kill her. Then I'll accept you as my mate in the future." Manhwa was completely covered in black. His gaze was so terrifying that he didn't look like a 4-year-old pup. After a brief silence, he finally spoke slowly. And on the other side, Beiji was supporting Donkey while they sunbathed. Mom said that the elder brother needs more calcium. He didn't know what calcium was. But what Mom says is never wrong. Don Chi was so dazzled by the sun that he couldn't open his eyes. It took him a while to adapt. Finally, he said a sentence. "Beiji, it seems like the sun has grown a little. But how could the sun grow? It's not like a smile." However, Don Chi had a serious expression. When he was at Xiangru's house, he heard other males say that when the day of the burning flame arrives, the sun gets a little bigger. Then the earth becomes unbearably hot. The vegetation can't withstand it and would spontaneously catch fire. The cursed flames will turn numerous animals and beasts into cooked meat. But this is not something a pup should worry about. Here, Xinyan, still terrified, came out from the nearby trees. When she saw the 2 pups in the distance, she breathed a sigh of relief. Don Chi, Beilin, Xian approached excitedly and hugged the 2 little ones. Don Chi slightly frowned. He gently pushed her away. Xian didn't get discouraged. She gave Beiji a big hug. Beiji was almost crushed by her hug. "Mom, I can hardly breathe." At that moment, Onsen, who had been searching outside, also returned when he saw Xian in front of the cave. He rushed excitedly towards her. His mother, whom he had seen disappear, was still terrified. When he returned home, he didn't dare to tell his siblings. He could only go alone into the forest to look for her. Fortunately, she came back. "She's really great." Xinyan stroked Onsen's head and laughed softly. "It's all right, Mom has returned." Donchi saw that Onsen suddenly accepted Xian. He felt confused and hurt inside, and he threw a cold mockery at Xian. Hypocrite. Considering he was still injured, Silian didn't intend to argue with him. She just took a broom and began to clean. Beiji, seeing this, immediately started to help. In the Cantonante Pancho, males are only recognized by their ability to work. Only then will they be accepted by their own species. Even the pups have this kind of thinking. Don Chi just felt that the scene of a loving mother and an obedient child was very ridiculous. If the day of the burning flame really came, this female would surely run away. These pups would only be a burden to her, especially him. His foot was badly injured. She would surely abandon him. Don Chi's laughter was full of despair and sarcasm. This made Xian's heart ache. Although she didn't understand what the day of the burning flame that Don Chi mentioned was, she still approached him. She stroked the little one's head. "Don't think too much. Anyway, our family will always be together." Don Chi snorted. He wouldn't believe her. The news of Nanmo and Xiangru falling from the cliff arrived that night. The female had died. The males and females, due to the pair bond, received a fatal blow. Almost half of them died, indeed. In the village, they were even more certain that Xiangru had died. That night, the rain fell heavily. Xian, upon hearing the news, was stunned. She took Onsen and Begagiji and searched for a long time on the other side of the cliff. She stared at the cliff with a vacant look. "I still haven't received his forgiveness, he just disappeared." That shy and reserved pup who always hid in a corner, secretly watching her. When she was worried about Onsen and Niveline. When she took care of Don Chi. That pup never said a word, he just hid in a corner and watched her. How could she divide her concern between other pups and not give any to him? She still hadn't had time to compensate him. How could he leave first? It's his fault. It's all his fault. The rain completely soaked Sibayan. Tyson, who was returning from hunting, saw this scene. His heart skipped a beat. He really wanted to give her a hug. But he wasn't her mate yet, so he could only feel helpless and distressed. "Xinyan, go back first. I'll go find Nanmo. In the beast world, witch medicine is scarce. A small cold could cost an orc its life, let alone a female like Xian, who is thin and small. He didn't expect the woman to directly reject her. Now, she didn't need anyone's care. She only wanted to find her pup. Tyson hesitated for a moment. His strong hands finally touched her arm. "Xian, from today, I'm your guardian beast. I'm determined, no changes." As soon as he finished speaking, Tyson's forehead glowed weakly with a white light but quickly disappeared. All of this made Cyan regain her calm from her anxiety. Tyson keenly noticed that something wasn't right. Tyson, what is a guardian beast?
Protecting is for life, always protecting your mate. He covered the totem over his heart. His fiery eyes stared at her.
Listen, go to the cave and wait. I promise. I'll bring Nanmo back. I promise.
Tyson ventured into the rain, his back to the cliff. He reflected in the hearts of those present. Beasts. Cyan bit her lip. She turned her head. She believed that Nanmo wouldn't come to any harm. As long as she didn't see Nanmo's body, he was definitely still alive. They returned to the cave. Onsen and Nivehi were sitting next to the campfire. Don Chi was also sitting in a corner, watching them. Cyan moved the campfire a little. After a long time, she asked one thing. What is a guardian beast? Onsen offered to explain. The so-called guardian beast protects the good. It's the male who unconditionally offers to protect the female. He will provide food and clothing for the female. He'll even risk his life to protect her, but he has no right to have offspring with her. Cyan fell into a long silence after hearing this. Her world still followed a monogamy system, except for the father of her pups. He would never accept another mate throughout his life. Letting Tyson be her guardian beast wasn't fair in any way. She must find an opportunity to clarify things with him. The rain kept intensifying. It almost didn't seem like it was going to stop. This completely cut off Silmayan's search for the dwarfs. She looked at the small river in front of the cave. It had already become a big river. The day had become a big river. An inexplicable panic filled Zion's heart. It wasn't the rainy season. However, this situation had occurred. This was really abnormal. The cave was no longer livable. They must find a higher place to take shelter. She ordered Onsen and Beiji to prepare the house's seeds and spices. She, for her part, risked the rain to gather all the vegetables from the field. She even dug up a large log to store a lot of rainwater. Zion's idea was very simple. The water from the river, after a big storm, couldn't be drunk. She had to store rainwater for drinking. When she quickly returned to the cave, the rainwater was already at the level of the cave. The three little pups lifted their heads and looked at her. Even Don Chi, who had always disagreed with her, showed a look of dependence on his mother. She crouched down in front of Don Chi, signaling him to climb up. Thus, Xian carried Don Chi on her back. Daehi and Onsen each held a grass mat. They ran into the heavy rain. There were many orcs climbing the mountain under the rain, along with Cyan's family. The rainwater fell on her delicate cheek. The marks of mud and rim on her face couldn't resist the washing of the rain. Her beautiful, pale face appeared. The little Donji hugged Cyan. It was the first time he felt that his mother was so beautiful. However, not far from there, a male wolf also watched this scene with bright eyes. This ugly female? No. Cyan is truly beautiful. The woman is undoubtedly the #1 beauty of the beast continent. However, she has to disguise herself as ugly every day to protect herself. Just because there are more males than females here. Even if you're a 300-pound fat guy, you'll still be pursued by the males. Not to mention beautiful females. That's just the best of the best. But her face, which she tried so hard to hide, was seen by a male. His gaze towards her was full of greed and ambition. Don Chi took a handful of mud and smeared it on Xian's face. His eyes turned into dangerous vertical pupils. His eyes fixed on Lan Feng. It seemed like he was warning the male to stay away. Not only that, even Onsei and Mibei, he shifted their gaze towards Lan Feng. The sudden alertness of the cubs left Cyan a little confused. She didn't realize at all that her beautiful cheek had been seen by a solitary male. In Don Chi's eyes, a flash of frustration appeared. He had already noticed his mother's face, which had been cleaned by the rain. It was all his fault for not warning her. Lan Feng, realizing they had seen him, immediately acted like a good man. He revealed that Billy had recently posted a message. The day of the burning flame is approaching. This strange rain is the proof of a regressive glow. He even actively suggested that he would go up the mountain with Cyan's family. Although his reaction was slow, Cyan also noticed something was wrong. She refused Lan Feng's proposal without hesitation. Watching the figure of the 4-member family move away, the greed in Lan Feng's eyes was no longer hidden. No wonder Tyson wants her so much. Ignoring the pressure from his family, he still wants to make her his beast guardian. She is truly a beautiful female. And, moreover, she has great reproductive capacity. With just one male, she already has 4 cubs. By any means necessary, As long as he could have a litter of cubs with her, he would be willing to die for it. He found a huge rock. The stones beneath the rock were at a considerable height. It wasn't too wet yet. She took the grass from the cubs' bodies to make a cushion on top. She spread it over the rock. In addition, she was lucky enough to find some dry branches. She used a lighter to ignite the wood. The cubs sat in a circle. For a moment, the atmosphere turned unusually warm. Finally, Seong was the first to break the silence. What will happen when the day of the burning flame comes? The three cubs responded in unison. It simply means that many people will die, and the first to die will be the females. Then there was a brief moment of laughter. Do you wish for my death so much? Originally, it was a rather serious matter, but she took it so lightly. There must be a way to solve it, right? Otherwise, the orcs would have already gone extinct. As expected, Dong-chi thought for a moment and mentioned a place, the Dark Day Lake. It's a vast underground forest. Inside the forest, there's a lake. Not even the day of the burning flame could dry it up. That is the only place where one can escape the day of the burning flame. But the Dark Day Lake is not large. It cannot accommodate so many people at all. In the end, there will always be high-ranking orcs fighting for it. Her family consists of females, children, and sick people. Their combat ability is almost zero, so it's the same as having no chance. For a moment, the expressions of several cubs turned serious. Beiji even started crying. It's all my selfishness. If I hadn't stopped you from forming a bond with a male, you would have had more chances of surviving. Look at the mothers of other beasts. They have so many males. Why am I so resentful? She gently stroked the little head with a smile. The earth can no longer sustain life. Don-chi remained silent. Onsen was also clearly upset. In the beast world, families are organized around the females. The central unit of this family is Sequoian. However, the strength of this family is not very powerful because Cillian only has one male. And they don't know where that male is. That means if they can't find a solution, their mother will have difficulty surviving in this harsh environment of the beast world. She could really face death. Don-chi clenched his lips. He was angry at her. He was fighting with her. But he didn't want anything bad to happen to her. So he also began to get angry at that irresponsible father. He's really very irresponsible. It's better not to have a father like that. The next morning, the rain indeed stopped. The sun also seemed bigger. The weather suddenly became warm after the rain. A large amount of water on the ground directly evaporated into vapor. This moment was very hard to endure. Sion carried Don-chi on her back. The big one and three small ones returned to the cave together. The cave had been struck by a mudslide, a hole full of mud. But now, there was no time. Sion remained surprisingly calm. Let's leave before it gets hotter. We must reach the Dark Day Lake quickly. Each of them had a canteen on their waist. The water in the canteens was from the rain collected last night. At that moment, Onsen raised his head with difficulty to look at Sion. But mother, we don't know where the Dark Day Lake is. Upon hearing this, Sion couldn't help but feel her heart stop for a moment. In her previous life, she had become accustomed to using a navigator, which made her feel that there was no problem going anywhere. But now she found herself in trouble. However, at that moment, Lang Feng suddenly appeared behind them. He said that he knew where the Dark Lake was. The interruption and the arrival of a male caused the air to suddenly become silent. The three cubs immediately became alert. They looked at the intruder with threatening gazes. If yesterday, Sakan had only some suspicions, today she realized fully that he had other plans. Today, she also noticed his hidden intentions. But for the cubs, she needed to know the location of the Dark Day Lake. Sion showed a polite smile. Can you take us there? Upon hearing this, Lan Feng smiled in a twisted manner. He immediately adopted an attitude of wanting to guide them. Don-chi, however, questioned him sharply. The day of the burning flame is coming. The Yanxiang tribe cannot allow its own members to walk towards destruction. Even if there's only a minimal hope, they would go to the Dark Day Lake. So, they are not the only ones who need to leave. The tribe will surely arrange for the females and cubs to head towards the Dark Day Lake. Why are you so eager to leave? Such a purpose from him is like the heart of a wolf being laid bare. Lan Feng hadn't anticipated his plan. The little one saw through him. It was seen by the cubs. He could only surrender, helpless. Indeed, not much time passed. The gray wolf came to inform the Xixiang family to gather. At that moment, in the center of the tribe, a group of beastmen had already gathered. When Xixiang barely approached, she felt a strong hostility. Realizing the owner of that gaze, and noticing that he looked a little like Tyson, she turned her gaze away. They must be Tyson's family, right? The most powerful male of the tribe, even willing to be her protector. Now, even for the matter of her son Nanmo, his whereabouts are unknown. It's understandable that they are angry with her. It was only the heavy rain last night. I don't know how Tyson and Nanmo are. Don Chi was the first to realize that something was wrong with Xian. Unusually, he took the initiative to comfort this female. What is there to worry about? Nanmo doesn't like to talk. Do you think he's easy to intimidate? The youngest always takes revenge on his enemies. He won't be intimidated, although his tone wasn't very friendly. Xian looked at him in surprise. Don Chi saw her gaze with pride. The four brothers are small, but not dumb. In this world, only those who can intimidate the four brothers and hurt their hearts. Only one bad female can do that. The so-called blood sword is the most deadly. Among the gathered orcs, not far away, there were 4 bear cubs who were not yet adults, hiding in fear. Xian immediately recognized them. They are the surviving cubs of the Xian Rao family. Since yesterday, Xian Ru has died. These cubs have lost their protection. They can only rely on themselves to survive. Facing these cubs who had once harassed her son, Xian had little compassion. The village chief stood in a high place with a serious expression. This time, our migration. The distance is not very far, but it's not close either. The goal is to protect the 16 females of the tribe and the young cubs after the day of the burning flame. We will return. The males raised their arms and shouted. For the females, for reproduction, for survival, for the tribe. At that moment, Lan Feng brought a wild beast raised in the tribe by Ziyu. He indicated for Xian to mount it. Facing this enormous white wolf, Xiclan felt some resistance in her heart. But still, she sat down with the 3 cubs. In total, there were 10 beast mounts. A section of the 16 females in the tribe and other beasts, carrying supplies on their backs. Most of the cubs could go with their mother, sitting on the backs of large beasts. But the Xian Rao cubs had clearly lost this privilege. No females took them in. They could only follow with difficulty at the end of the line. The entire group had hundreds of members, forming a circle protecting 16 females, and the cubs in the center, the males on the outside, hunting and searching for food in shifts along the way. The land, after the rain, exhaled vapor. It felt suffocating and very uncomfortable. Xingyan was worried about Don Chi's injury. This weather was not favorable for wound recovery. Over time, it could become inflamed and infected. That was the case. The group had moved for several days. During these days, Lang Feng had been particularly enthusiastic. Whether it was fresh meat or clean water, he always sent it to Xian first. This caused other males in the tribe to stir. Even if Xian didn't accept anything from Lang Feng, they still considered Lang Feng to be Xian's next male. Night fell. The group stopped to rest by a lake. Xian and her cubs remained in a corner very discreetly. Taisen passed water to Xian. He said carefully, "Mom, be careful with Tyson's mother." Xian naturally understood what her cubs meant. This migration, she had been very discreet. If a fire could be avoided, it was not lit. It was about reducing visibility. However, as the sun grew stronger, food was placed on hot stones, quickly cooking to a point. Therefore, there was no need to start a fire. But it was also for this reason that the atmosphere of the group became increasingly serious. Everyone seemed to understand. If they didn't reach the Dark Day Lake quickly, they would die from heat and thirst. The 3 little ones, being of the Snake Man race, are the ones most affected. They no longer have the energy to move. Xian, feeling overwhelmed, wants to take a deep breath. She left the temporary resting place to relieve herself in a less crowded area, but she doesn't know that her action falls right into Lan Feng's plans. He was waiting for this opportunity for the female to be alone. She was known in the tribe as the ugly one. Now, she has become the object of desire for the males. However, even if the tribe leader threatens to expel her, Xingyan doesn't want any of them. In this vast world, there will always be a place for them. Single mothers and orphans. The story begins when Xian went out alone to relieve herself in the afternoon. Seeing her alone, Lan Feng finally showed his true face. That day, even in the rain, he saw her. "You're so beautiful. Why are you hiding? Can I be your mate? Can you give me offspring?" At that moment, Lan Feng had no reservations. He began speaking shamelessly. Cyan suddenly felt a little regretful. Because of Tyson. In her memory, the wolf tribe was loyal, friendly, and beautiful. Therefore, she thought that by rejecting Lan Feng, he would back off as Tyson did. But she didn't expect that this guy would try something on her in the field. Cyan slapped him, hitting so hard that her hand went numb. Lan Feng was stunned by the slap. After a moment of confusion, he looked at Cyan in disbelief. What do you mean? Isn't it obvious what I mean? Just stay away. However, in Lan Feng's eyes, the little female's legs had no power. He gritted his teeth and took a step forward. He prepared again for the most primitive communication. Ziyan got scared and turned to run. She escaped. He chased her. She couldn't fly anyway. When the path curved, Ziyan suddenly turned around. She had 2 silver threads in her hand. They reflected a beautiful shine under the moonlight. She didn't mind using the blood drip to help him a bit. At that moment, Tyson's mother, Wu Feng, appeared. Lan Feng, what are you doing? Are you bullying a female? Tom Yang hid his weapons before anyone noticed. She was standing there, still silent. Then she heard Lan Feng accusing others first, claiming that he was doing this for the good of the tribe. She's a female who doesn't know where she came from. The tribe took her in kindly. For all these years, she has eaten and drunk from the tribe. But she never accepted any other males from the tribe. She hasn't contributed to the tribe's reproduction. Can she really be considered a member of the tribe? Lan Feng's words made Ziyan's skin crawl. Her principle had always been monogamy, but she forgot. This is the world of beasts. The primary role of a female is to reproduce offspring. As expected, Lan Rong understood it this way upon hearing it. She told Ziyan, "Since you've accepted the tribe's support, you must take responsibility for reproducing for the tribe. You must accept at least 5 males and give birth to offspring for the tribe. Otherwise, you won't be able to continue receiving the tribe's support." Cyan laughed. 5 males? How is that possible? But the tribe is already quite small. Lan Feng is even more insidious. Soon, everyone in the tribe will know about this matter. Over time, Cyan became the topic of discussion among many males. Who would want such a thin female? Tyson has become her guardian beast. I think this family can stay. The current Cyan has already learned to protect and care for the cubs. She is a good female. There are more single males in the tribe. Cyan feels like, no matter where she goes, she is being watched by possessive male gazes. At that moment, she seemed to be making a delicious meal among the beasts. A tasty meal. She clenched her fists. The anger grew inside her, forced by the situation. Mother! Mother! Beiji grabbed her with concern. After a long time, she finally returned to reality. She had almost forgotten. She now has 3 cubs. If they talk about leaving this tribe, she and her 3 cubs won't survive the scorching heat of the flame day. They won't find the lake of the dark day, and they'll die in this unknown land. But forcing her to accept 5 males at once? Sorry, she really can't do that. Xinyan bent down slowly. She gently hugged her 3 cubs. She felt a little frustrated and apologized to them. Maybe you're right. Mama is selfish. Dongxi's body shook violently. He struggled to get out of her arms. We already know you're selfish. It's not the first time. If you're selfish, then you're selfish. Why are you crying? It's really ugly. Anze and Niveji firmly told her not to worry about anything else. She should just do what she wants. And if you leave the tribe, as long as you're with Mama, it doesn't matter where we go. Supported by her 3 cubs, to say she didn't feel like life would be a lie, but now she's not alone. She can't only think of herself. She also has responsibilities to assume. She's very nervous. The 3 cubs brought her to the villagers. And other beasts from the tribe also gathered. Around them is a sea of mockery. Look at this Singaboyan. Her cubs are serpentine. Oh heavens! She hasn't given birth to a single wolf cub. Not even bear cubs. The murmurs sound like mosquitoes, loud and annoying. Xian's fist slowly clenched. She can't give up. At that moment, several little hands grabbed her. She looked up slightly. Only then did she see the concern in the eyes of her 3 cubs. Onsen gave her an affirmative glance. He stepped forward and addressed the villagers. Villagers, everyone has heard what happened today. I just know that in the beast continent, females can't be forced. I'm young. I don't understand what this means. Can you explain it to the whole family? On the side, Xianai supported. That's what I'm saying. Since when can females not reject males? Xiangnai spoke in her favor. Ziyan threw him a grateful look. Xiang Nai winked.
A small thing. Lan Feng had a serious expression. He stared, pressuring little Onsain.
However, Onsain still maintained his composure. He asked the Bilai elder, "Grandfather Billier, we want to know what the tribe means." The old man stroked his beard. Although Xinyan is still thin, she's already stronger than before. She should be capable of reproduction. The tribe needs more cubs. We also hope that Xinyan will be willing to reproduce for the tribe. He sighed deeply and directly said that Lan Feng was right. She's too thin. Before, she was just too thin. That's why the tribe never considered her. But now that her body has recovered, it's time for her to contribute to the clan. As for Lan Feng, if she doesn't like him, she can change males. At that moment, the meddlesome Lang Xing also appeared. She considers herself the most beautiful female in the Yangxiang tribe. She should be with a strong male like Tyson. But that guy actually lowered himself to be the guardian beast of Jihan, that ugly female.
How could I not hate her? Today, she finally found the opportunity to take advantage of the misfortune.
Dongzhan, 5 males aren't many. Look, what female in our clan doesn't have a dozen males by her side? I'll let you choose a male. Wouldn't you be offended?
The males of the clan looked at Jihan with shining eyes. The day of the burning flame is coming. Who knows how much longer she will live if she leaves before life fades. One more chance to procreate is worth risking her life.
Moreover, during this time, Xinyan had generated a lot of expectations among the beasts.
This situation made Ziai feel upset.
Lang Feng formed words with his lips, as if saying, "If you ask for my help, I'll help you. If you don't ask for my help, I won't care to share with everyone."
Hey, bad female.
Dongqi gently covered her eyes. Ziyan's vision went into darkness. She heard the soft and slightly mature voice of the pup resonating in her ear. "Let's go."
But if we leave, Dongqi will lose his white wolf. His wound hasn't healed yet. It's easy for it to get infected.
Ziyan worried too much.
"Let's go."
Dongqi let go of her hand. The red wolf raised its hand. Ziyan saw the light again. He looked at her calmly. "They will regret it." From them, the other males burst into laughter, still thinking of leaving the tribe. Really a ridiculous idea. They will survive one day if they leave. Ziyan's family was surrounded in the middle. At this moment, they became the subject of ridicule for the other beasts. Everyone was waiting to see how she would beg for mercy. However, she looked at the village chief with great determination. "Village chief, if I refuse your request, will I lose the protection of the tribe?" The village chief seemed to hesitate for a moment. To be honest, Ziyan's recent behavior had actually satisfied him quite a bit. He also wanted to treat this female well. But if Ziyan was unwilling to accept the males of the tribe, to procreate for the tribe, then what was the purpose of staying in the tribe? Moreover, he was sure that this family of orphans wouldn't choose to leave the tribe. Therefore, he seriously responded to her question. A choice between 2 options. There was no room for negotiation. The words of the village chief caused a great uproar throughout the tribe. Many people looked at Simeon as if they were watching a show, especially the pups of Shenru, who had suffered a lot. They couldn't hide their laughter as they looked at Xian. "Look at her. It's clear she's going to end badly. She won't survive. Her mother female has died. The female who hates her mother will also die." However, Xian laughed boldly. She believed it was fair. "We protect you. You give us offspring." She respected this deal. But that didn't mean she was going to do it. She took a firm step back. Her pups also stepped back in unison. "Village chief, thank you for taking care of us for so long." Her choice surprised all the beasts. Lang Feng looked at Xinyan in astonishment. He didn't understand why she had made that choice. A female who has multiple males can have more protection. She'll be safer, more powerful. No one will bother her. Lang Feng frowned slightly. If she really wants to die, then let her. None of this is his fault. It's just Xiang's choice. The village chief's eyes were deep. His face didn't look good after being countered. At this moment, he also felt a bit regretful. After all, Xinyan was a female. Females are very important to the tribe, but she preferred to die rather than give offspring to the tribe. Thinking about this, the village chief became even angrier. Xianai still wanted to intercede for her, but was stopped by her male. Ziyan shook her head. smiled at him gratefully, then turned around and disappeared into the forest with her pups. Only she didn't know yet that her choice almost cost Dan Qi his life. His wife and children had been starving for 3 days and 3 nights. But he was quietly enjoying a bath in the moonlight. Who could have imagined that the greatest villain of the future would be someone who enjoys rolling up like incense and sleeping deeply every day? The gray fox watched from not far away. This male was in a bad mood upon waking up. He had to stay here to prevent other inconsiderate orcs from interrupting his sleep. What you fear comes. An orc with snowy white fur approached with a beautiful smile, holding a plate of delicious fruits. The gray fox had reached adulthood. There might be an understanding. Could I speak on behalf of my clan and territory? The gray fox glanced at the pile of food, looking uninhabited. He curled his lip. Better keep their thoughts. The dark light lake belongs to the great illusionist. It's part of the illusory territory. The doe female responded resolutely. Our deer clan only feeds on fruits and grass. We won't touch food from the illusory territory. It's a joke. Don't they eat? Don't you drink water? It's not good to be alive. You need to hurry and be devoured. The female deer was so scared she wanted to cry. But she couldn't enter the dark lake. They would also die. She even knelt down and begged. I've heard that the Lord still has no female. She is very willing. As long as the illusory territory can protect her tribe. He looked at this young female who had just reached adulthood and shook his head. Go back. The adult doesn't like you acting like this. The doe female left desolately. The sun had grown a little. The temperature had also risen. Sikan was leading 3 children. They had been walking west for 5 or 6 days. Speaking of which, it was embarrassing. Cyan, being so bad at orientation, could only rely on her pups to find the correct way. Dan Qi's lips were very dry and cracked. Cyan put her under a tree, thinking of giving her some water. Dan Qi, however, asked a question. We don't have much water left, do we? On a rainy day, Cyan had stored a barrel of water in the space. But an adult and 3 pups drink water very quickly. The most important thing is that, along this road, they hadn't found a drop of water. Cyan bit her lips, trying to stay calm. This is my matter. You don't need to worry. Dan Qi remained silent for a long time upon seeing this. Now it was a burden. Carrying him not only slowed them down but also used up their water. Maybe leaving him behind would be enough for everyone's water. But her suggestion had not been completed yet. It was abruptly interrupted by Cyan. Along this way, she had thought of hundreds and thousands of solutions. But none of them involved leaving him behind. If we're going to live, we'll live together. If we're going to die, we'll die together. Our family must stay united, do you understand? The angry voice of the little female seemed very small in the empty desert, but it struck Dan Qi's heart. In his eyes, there was distrust. There was also surprise. And there was light. But soon, he blushed and lowered his head. Females are, indeed, very delicate. It gave him goosebumps. Several more days passed. Although Cyan tried hard to recall the geographical knowledge she had learned, there was no map. The dark sun lake was like searching for a needle in a haystack for them. The little ones seemed not to be nervous. In a desperate situation like this, their attitude was much better than his. However, Dan Qi's condition was getting worse. The hot weather and lack of water made his wound at risk of infection at any moment. He leaned against Cyan's back. He could clearly hear Cyan's breathing and heartbeat. He could feel her anxiety and restlessness. Yet, he felt calmer than ever. Remembering the past, she had sold him to Xian's mansion. That was the first time he was abandoned and betrayed. It felt like he had lost his entire world. But now, his world had returned. Even if she left him now, he wouldn't be sad. He would even feel relieved. He would still feel lucky that he hadn't become a burden. Before, he always thought that leaving Ida would be very difficult. He thought she would hate him for the rest of her life. Now he realized. From the beginning, what he always wanted was for the mother female not to separate from her. That phrase, mommy, which he hadn't heard in a long time. In the end, he called her. Perhaps he realized he had little time left. He wanted to call her before dying. Cyan turned around and looked. In an instant, she realized something was wrong with him. This was probably the first time Cyan regretted leaving the tribe. If sacrificing one of them could help Sutongi overcome the crisis safely, she thought, she was willing. Beiji was extremely worried. Mom, is the big brother in trouble? Xingyan was tense and didn't say a word. Upon waking up, she became the mother of 4 pups. She had originally thought this would only make her a stepmother at most, but a sharp pain in her heart told her she had already considered them as her own flesh and blood. She accepted her hatred and dependence. She also accepted the mockery of fate. But for her to witness Don Chi leave on his own, that was something she could never accept. Her heart was on the verge of collapsing. She got infected. The wound had still become infected. The eyes of Onsin, who had always been strong, were also red. Big brother wants Zansu. He had seen other males in the tribe before. They were also like this, falling. Even the shaman couldn't save them. Zion's heart ached, desperate, powerless, and furious. Ah, the great villain of the book, the great villain who stabbed my heart with a sword. How could he fall? Tell me, how could he fall here? Zion tightly shut her eyes. She opened that space that was so hard to open. In the messy space, her consciousness searched for something inside. Antibiotics. One would be enough. God, protect me. My child cannot die. After prolonged effort, the corners of Zion's lips were stained with blood. She didn't know if heaven had heard her prayer. She had in a small weapons bag in a corner, a substance that shouldn't have been there. Youthful substance. She took it out excitedly. I'm going to inject penicillin into Don Chi. Although Onsen and Beiji didn't know what that was, their intuition told them that this thing could save their older brother's life. Just at that moment, a soft sound came from a nearby tree. I found them. It turned out to be Langsin from the Ruachan tribe. Beiji, naive, thought that the tribe had changed their mind about bringing them back. But Langsin suddenly started laughing. Nanmo, die. Don Chi is going to die too. The day of the flame has come. You all, your entire family, will die one by one. What does the tribe need you for? Especially Cyan, a skinny and ugly female, and she dares to steal Brother Tyson? Senyan seemed not to hear her. She slowly administered the penicillin to Don Chi. Langsin, who had been ignored, became even more frantic. She was cursing Sikyan as if she were crazy. Don't they know yet? Xiangrao was my doing. Nanmo pushed him off the cliff. After saying this, she threw a furious glance at Sisian. Oh, how fierce, how fierce, how cruel, how cruel. I like that look of yours. It makes me feel very pleased. As long as she can make Sinyan suffer, she will be happy. But Cyan also smiled. This woman is really impatient. Knowing that, after leaving the tribe, their chances were slim, she still wasn't calm. She even wanted to take the initiative to send them off. But have you ever thought that if I'm not here, your brother Tyson will also suffer a great blow? Langsin gritted her teeth, hate in her gaze. Tyson will be seriously hurt. That's the result of his own blindness in choosing. And you, as long as your 3 cubs are safe, my world will be beautiful. After saying this, she waved her hand, giving orders to the 10 beastmen behind her. Finish off that ugly female. The female's orders are commands for the males. The 10 or more males from the wolf tribe and the bear tribe showed their sharp claws toward them. A thin, small female. A cub on the brink of death. A beastman of gray crystal. A cub with nothing. This family of 4 looks like a burden of sick women and children. They need 10 males. A single male can handle them. Langsen had them all attack together, just to crush them. Ziyan also stood up slowly. She took a few steps forward. Place your 2 cubs behind you. Protect your older brother. Suddenly, a purple snake scale gleamed in her hand. Since these males want to die, I'll grant them that. Then, she shot forward like an arrow. Toward those 10 or so males. Langsen's males were numerous, but the snake scale in her hand was a weapon 1,000 times sharper than their knives. There was no way their claws could compare. Soon, Zian approached the first wolf male from Langsen, swiped at her with his claw. However, Zian didn't dodge or avoid it. She directly blocked it with the snake scale. The balanced block she imagined didn't happen. The scene of a male killing Zian did not appear. Langsen's expression at that moment also changed slowly from expectation to astonishment. She only saw Zian holding a scale, blocking the male's strong and sharp paw. Big vegetable, cutting through the snake scale. Just a female. How is it possible for her to be so strong? Langsen and her males were all stunned. She could only scream like a madwoman. Kill her! Quickly, kill her! More than 10 males rushed towards Zion from all directions. The small female, despised by all, however, defeated dozens of wolfmen by herself. Not only that, she also possessed the power of a healer. That crowd, which had initially wanted to throw her out, now regretted it all. It was all due to their lack of foresight. Just now,
Beihu was watching Mamita being attacked. In a moment of desperation, he awakened the power of the gray crystal. He couldn't wait to help, but was stopped by Onzain. "You take care of your older brother. I'll go with Mamita." Saying this, he transformed into a long blue snake. He shot toward Xian like a lightning bolt. However, he didn't get close. Before he could, 2 adult green crystal beastmen stopped him. "Little one, we're here to play with you." Beihi, who was protecting Dan Qi, was very worried, but no one noticed. Behind Beihi, Dan Qi lay on the ground, his forehead glowing with a small green light that was slowly gathering, under attacks from all directions. Xian was only missing the green dragon to her left and the white tiger to her right. At that moment, the scene of her childhood practicing Tai Chi with her grandfather appeared in her mind. Her body turned smoothly in a circle. She didn't use any fist techniques. Instead, she held the snake scale in her hand. She then combined it with Tai Chi. She lowered in a series of rapid movements like a tiger. Those male beasts froze in shock. This time, the males were completely stunned. They had never seen a female so powerful. The males gain their strength through training. The females gain their strength by uniting with the males. How many years has this rule of iron existed? There has never been a female who could gain power through training. But this female, who doesn't even have beast crystals, surprisingly managed to hurt them. Xian released a faint sound. She remained firm and determined. The corner of her mouth curved into a smile. They believed that having beast crystals made them powerful. "This is a technique from the earth. If you're capable, come and try it." A group of males lunged forward again. She watched with her heart racing. She whispered under her breath, "Big brother, you need to get better." Xian quickly backed up. She led this group of males to a place far from the cubs. She looked proudly at the female in the distance. Langson looked like a frantic hen. "Xian, you must die today. It will surely happen." Xian's eyes grew cold. A silver flash shot toward her from her hand. Before the present males had a chance to react, Langson was hit in the head with a syringe. She immediately started screaming like a lunatic. "What is this? What is this?" She didn't know what had pierced her forehead. What the hell was it? She didn't dare pull it out. She could only stay there, shouting insults. But Xian was enjoying herself like a fish in water. She was small and very agile. The tall males couldn't do anything to her. They even took a moment to observe Lang Xin. "How long have I been fighting?" Next to Lang Xin was a male who had not moved a step. Xian could sense that the male next to Lang Xin was the most powerful of them all. These more than 10 males were the thugs who threatened her life. However, the most powerful one stayed by her side to protect her. Truly a clever plan. What she didn't know was that the male she was watching, Lang Yu, was also observing her at that very moment. A female this powerful made his blood boil with excitement. However, his female, Langson, was about to explode with rage. This group of cute idiots. "Lang Yu, go and eliminate her. As long as you eliminate Xian, I promise the next litter of cubs will be yours." The day of the flame has come. It's not certain who will survive. Having cubs? In Lang Yu's eyes, there was a hint of disdain. He wasn't very interested in the cubs. But Xian had sparked his interest. He really wanted to finish her off. Lang Yu took a step forward. Suddenly, he accelerated. He lunged at Xian, slashing with his claw. At the same time, Xian also realized the beast crystal on his forehead. Red. A red crystal beastman from the rock tribe. Besides Tyson, there was another red crystal beastman who had never been shown, and his speed was incredible. As a warrior from the end of the world on Earth, Sikayam was not weak in the Earth world, but the combat power in the beast world was several levels higher than that of the Earth. Siam was marked. A light cold sweat appeared on her forehead. She wanted to retreat, but she realized she couldn't. The strength of the red crystal beastman and the green crystal beastman were not on the same level. With the green crystal beastman, she could handle some tricks. But the red crystal beastman crushed her directly, making it impossible for her to use any techniques. Seeing that this sharp claw was about to reach her forehead, her pupils dilated. A slight resentment flickered in her eyes. However, at the critical moment, Lan Diu stopped. He looked at Lan Xin with disdain. Then he saw Dong Qi holding a shining snake scale, pressing it firmly against Lan Xin's delicate neck. The green stone on his forehead gleamed. The eldest, Dong Qi, had not only successfully overcome the crisis, but it also evolved into a green crystal beastman in one go. At that moment, he was threatening Lang Yu with Lan Xin's life. Let go of that ugly female. If you do, I'll release your disgusting female. I truly appreciate it, my good son. We've reached this point, and you still haven't forgotten to call her ugly. Lan Xin had never seen such a scene. She was so scared that she almost screamed, "Mom!" She shouted at Lan Yu. "Let go of Ziyan! Let her go now!" Lan Yu seemed to find it very amusing. He looked at the 4-year-old child. This little one can't even be called an opponent. Are you threatening me? What I have in my hand is your female, you little one. Don Qi wasn't worried at all. As everyone knew, he had been sold by her. Did a female like that deserve to be a mother? Even a female as ugly as her didn't bother him in the slightest. Instead, if your female master dies, you'll fall to green or gray crystal. It's not easy to reach red crystal, right? Do you want to experience having your foundation damaged and never being able to train again? Evidently, Don Qi's threat had an effect. Lang Yu began to weigh the pros and cons. Xizang wasn't important to Deng Qi, but Lan Xin was very important to him. It wasn't that he loved her that much, as Deng Qi said. If Lan Xin lost, not only would she not survive, but she would also suffer greatly. How difficult it is to become a red crystal beastman. So, he couldn't take the risk. Thinking this over, Lang Yu quickly released his grip. Xinyang ran quickly toward Deng Qi. Onsen and Beiji also ran toward them. Xinyang threw several bags, which were wrapped in leaves, on the ground. You, each take a bag. Lang Yu and the other males frowned slightly. They never imagined that they would be threatened by these 4 weaklings. Landy approached the bag of potions, opened the leaves, and saw black powder. He didn't recognize it, but he still ate it without hesitation. Seeing this, Cyan couldn't help but marvel at the simplicity of the beast world. They dared to eat whatever the enemy gave them. What great courage. However, the medicine in the beast world was not advanced. Maybe they didn't even know. What consequences could this food cause? Onsen lifted his head and saw the confusion on Cyan's face. He explained in a low voice, "Mom, males' lives don't count for much. To save the females, they can all sacrifice themselves. During the hunt with the hunting team, if they come across an unknown food, it's the males who test it first. Generally, males who reach green crystal level or higher already have some detoxification ability. That's why they're not afraid." Cyan nodded thoughtfully. They were used to eating poisonous fruits, so they weren't afraid. But she gave them a paralyzing poison. Soon, Lang Yu looked at her in disbelief. Xian and Deng Qi exchanged glances. Deng Qi understood the meaning of Xian's silent communication. He gently loosened his hand. Lan Xin was freed. She kept cursing in her heart at the stupidity of Xian's family. She ran toward her male while screaming madly, Kill them quickly! Wolf, send me to kill Xian!" Lang Yu slightly turned his head to look at his adorable little one. The other males told Lan Xin, "It's difficult. We can't move." "What did you say, heart?" Lan Xin opened her small, cherry-like mouth in surprise. However, her voice had barely finished when the males around her began to fall one by one. They were completely paralyzed. They couldn't move. Only Lang Yu remained standing firmly, making it hard to tell what was real and what was illusion. How strong was the detoxification ability of the red crystal beastman? She thought carefully. She backed away, protecting her cubs. "Langson, why should I do what you did?" Xian pulled her cubs and left. After Xinyan left, Langson began to hit and shout at her mate in anger, insulting Lan Yu, who stood there. Even long after Xian had left, Lan Yu finally slumped to the ground. He lowered his head slightly. His expression was deep. "Lan Yu, it's all your fault. It's all because you're too weak. Otherwise, Xian would already be dead." "Shut up." Lan Yu was clearly impatient. That female knows how to use medicine. She is a priestess, and she might also be a great priestess. Or perhaps a great healer. Her role isn't just limited to reproduction. The Rocky tribe still doesn't know what kind of person they let go. In the beast world, whether it's a great priestess or the position of a great healer, it's very high. Offending a great priestess or a great healer is not a good idea. This wolf female is too foolish. I really regret being so curious when I was young. I had great curiosity. I chose the wrong female. It's a trap at every step. His wife and children are about to die. He's still enjoying a relaxing bath. It wasn't expected that the storm would fall from the sky. Just like last time, it came uninvited. The Chihuahua grabbed her ankle in one swift motion. Cyan was forcefully thrown to the center of the lake. She didn't realize where she was. She opened her mouth and drank large gulps of water. Great,
Her 3 pups were safe. Just now, after Zian's family defeated Langson, they fortunately discovered a small section of the lake that hadn't dried up yet. The 3 pups, who had been thirsty for a long time, were frolicking in the lake. Zian also filled her bucket again. Then, she searched for wood and carved several small buckets to store them in her space. Dongqi, after washing up, approached her very shyly. "Bad female. I want this." Zian followed the finger she was pointing at and only then understood she was referring to Benny's fur skirt. "Okay, we'll wait for the long-eared beast to grow." However, Dongqi pointed to one side. Everything was already prepared there. When Sikian looked in that direction, 2 long-eared beasts were already lying at the foot of the large tree. Although their feet weren't complete, making 2 fur skirts for the pups wouldn't be a problem. She gave Dongqi a sneaky glance. She only saw that the face of this pup was already flushed all the way down to his feet. Sion couldn't help but smile faintly. She used Dongqi's long hair to make 2 fur skirts. One had the character Don carved on it. The other had the character Nan engraved. Dongqi impatiently checked the 2 fur skirts. "Which one is mine?" Sion suddenly wanted to tease him a little. "If you call me mommy, I'll tell you." Bad female, ugly female, and female. Stop. This. You really left me speechless. My head is getting bigger." Dongqi immediately put on his beast fur skirt. Sion patiently told him while fastening the beast tooth clasp. "This character is Don." Dongqi stared at the beast tooth clasp. His eyes brightened slightly. His little cherry-shaped mouth smiled. "What my brothers have, I have too." As for Nanmo's clothes, they were temporarily stored by Sion in her space. That night, they had the rare opportunity to enjoy a good meal. Sion prepared a whole roasted rabbit. The family ate joyfully. After dinner, they sat on the ground around the campfire, though they didn't know where they would go tomorrow. They were immensely happy inside. "Mom, can I sleep leaning on you?" Little Beiji looked at her with his adorable big eyes. Sion couldn't resist his aggressive cuteness. She agreed without hesitation. Beiji, bathed and fresh, curled up against his mother. He lay down on the makeshift straw mattress, observing the actions of the others. The other 2 pups also quietly approached without making a sound. They lay next to Sion. Sion held her belly, looking at the stars in the sky, feeling a moment of peace in the dangerous beast world. In the days leading up to the Day of the Flame, the temperature difference between day and night became enormous. During the day, the temperature reached 50 or 60 degrees. However, at night, it was below 10 degrees. The 3 pups could only cuddle against Sion for warmth. The next morning, 1 big and 3 little ones began their journey again. They walked for several days along the hot road. Water and food in Sikian's space were scarce. The situation became critical again. The surface temperature reached 40 or 50 degrees. It made Sion's family feel especially uncomfortable. Snakes fear heat. They especially fear dry and hot days. The first one who couldn't hold on was Beiji. I can't take it anymore." Beiji was burning all over his body. He felt he couldn't reach the dark lake. Sion decided to crouch down. She carried him on her back. What was worse was that they almost had no food or water left. Sinyan didn't dare to tell the pups this harsh reality, but soon, Onsen also gave up. The eldest, Dongqi, imitated Sinyan and carried him. "Mom, I'm so thirsty." Beiji, burning all over, could barely speak. Sion continued to comfort him with well-meaning lies. She said she would bring him water soon. Beiji shook his head. He knew perfectly well the situation with the water and food. He buried his head in Sidian's shoulder. He decided not to say anything more. Bad female. Dongqi also began to burn and weaken. He was carrying Onsen, and while looking at Xian, it was clear that he was also about to give up. He didn't know in which direction the dark lake was, and he couldn't find anyone to ask for directions. The feeling of hopelessness nearly drove him to the breaking point. Sion's lips were pale. She pursed her lips. She couldn't say anything. Dongqi smiled in resignation. He found a slightly cooler spot and placed Onsen on the ground. Xian also approached. She left Beiji. Then, the 2 of them sat against the rock. Snakes fear heat more than humans. She could see the agony in her eldest son. She patted Dongqi's head, but Dongqi closed his eyes. It seemed as though he was sleeping. The 3 pups had all reached their limit. They had entered a summer hibernation state. Dongqi, with one sudden move, turned into a small branch. Sion stored his fur skirt in the space. It wasn't long before Onsen and Beiji made a couple of noises. They turned into a small green snake,
and a white snake, respectively. Cyan leaned against the rock. Her heart felt increasingly desolate. It's said that there are beast gods in this world. Then, please, let the beast god give them a bowl of water. She would give it to the three pups. Cyan closed her eyes tiredly. She began to imagine herself as the little girl who sold matches, engraving the last scene in her mind. There were fish and shrimp. There were chickens and cows. Blue skies and white clouds. Beautiful scenery. Most importantly, the four pups were by her side. Don Chi is the older brother. He wears a small black suit. He is cold and cool. Nanmo says nothing. She accompanies him. Onsane's face improved. She tied her hair at the back of her head. She no longer had to hide half of her face. Bei-hu looks like a little prince. Many adorable little girls want to play with him. What's that? Cyan seems to have seen a purple land. That land looks so familiar to me. It's that stone that can only be cultivated and leveled by sticking to it. She, unable to control herself, walked toward the stone. Suddenly, she disappeared. The 3 snake beast pups fell to the ground. The 30 snake men fell to the ground. In the center of the dark light lake. It's hard for the snake man beast to wake up. He's bathing in the center of the lake. Since he entered the dark light lake, many females have come to bother him every day. It's really annoying. He can't sleep a single full night. Fortunately, the water of the dark light lake is clean and fresh. It can gradually calm his restless heart. However, at that moment, there was a vibration above his head. Then, a familiar sensation came, as if he had known it beforehand. His hands were wet. He grabbed tightly onto the ankle of Cyan, who had appeared out of nowhere, and threw her in one swift motion. Cyan was thrown heavily into the center of the lake, but she didn't even care about the pain. Her eyes were filled with joy as she saw the water. After drinking 200 kilos in one gulp, she secretly opened her space and filled a barrel of water. All of this left the snake speechless and stunned. He couldn't see Cyan's space, but he was also confused by her strange actions. Little female, what do you like? It turns out it wasn't the first time they had met. The last time Bumblin wanted something from him, it was this female who fell from the sky and hit him. As a result, he loosened his little hand. Uma fell into the Black Moon Lake. He was bitten by predator fish, and his passage was broken. Before he could see who had kicked him, the little female disappeared instantly. So, upon seeing this little one appear suddenly again, the snake wasn't at all surprised. But there was something quite curious about it. Where did you come from? While saying this, his small hand landed on the other person's neck. Cyan turned around. Her consciousness slowly returned. After a long while, she finally recognized him. After being completely confused, she responded familiarly. It's you, great demon. Don't you remember me? Let me go quickly. Let me go. The serpent had a very grim look. Did you come to my lake to drink my water? Do you want me to let you go just like that? Your lake? Cyan turned around and looked. She couldn't help but curse. Ah, what a waste. Who understands family? I was just thinking about that purple stone. How did this great demon come back again? Hey, it must be because he didn't brush his teeth this morning. That's why he fell so noisily. The serpent picked her up as if she were a chick, and it swam quickly to the shore. Afterward, it threw her to the ground. Cyan's bones crumbled when she was thrown, but she felt grateful inside. Thank goodness, thank goodness. The water had already filled the space. She just needed to return quickly. She could give the pup some water. The serpent looked at this strange female. She seemed as fragile as a little rabbit. Yet, she started insulting it. Moreover, she inexplicably appeared over its head twice. This female is definitely a bit strange. Who are you, and where do you come from? Why accuse me? Cyan had not yet recovered. She immediately answered firmly. Don't you want to live? Wow, friend, don't answer questions. Just threatened her life, thinking she's so easy to intimidate. I came to the tribe. The Rocky Village tribe abandoned my whole family. You wouldn't care if I sold them, right? Wang slightly narrowed his eyes. He had already made a decision in his heart. What's the name of that tribe? You can no longer enter the Lake of Darkness. Why can it disappear so suddenly? How would I know? I don't have time to talk to you now. I'm very worried. Are you in a hurry to leave? How do you know that? Wang, as if just waking up, lazily lifted his serpent eyes. Female, do you think this place is fun? I can come and go whenever I want. Cyan looked around. Then she looked at Wang to confirm. This is a really good place, but if I don't return soon, my pups might really die.
After saying that, she quickly ran a few steps ahead. While running, she repeated in her mind, "Return, return, return." Boom! Heiji disappeared again in the same area. Xin Huang's eyes opened slightly. His face showed confusion. He looked at the palm of his hand. He was sure he had caught the other person several times before. The texture was soft. It wasn't an illusion or a dream. He was sure she was a real beast female. Senior Lorne. At that moment, Wu Yi appeared behind Wang. Looking for someone? Wu Yi was confused. Who to look for? Shi Huang's eyes were dark and very impatient. A strong anger could hardly be contained. A disobedient female. Wu Yi was even more confused. Another careless female came to disturb Wan. Xian managed to return to her pup's side. She was surprised to have crossed over successfully again. She quickly took water out of the space. Carefully, she moistened the pup's lips. 3 snake pups, under the coolness of the lake water, began to wake up gradually. After opening their eyes, with a flap, they transformed into human form. Holding Xian's barrel, they began to drink. "I thought I was going to die." Behi anxiously looked at Xian. "Mom, I drank too much water." "Not much. This time I specially collected a lot of water." Xian's proud voice hadn't finished yet when Onsen barked down. "Shh, Mom, there are beastmen." Then Xian looked up. She only saw in the distance that a group of strong white tiger beastmen were passing by. They had only solved a first-grade math problem. All the white tiger beastmen knelt and called, "Dad!" Only because in the primitive and backward tribe, only the wise ones can count. That's the blessing given by the beast god. Their status is even higher than that of a healer. Zigan didn't expect to infiltrate the Black Tiger City so easily. When she and her 3 pups saw them in the desert, an audacious idea arose in her heart. Reaching the dark day lake on her own was simply an impossible dream. It would be better to rely on the powerful Black Tiger City. Just at that moment, Don Shiro overheard. The Black Tiger City's cone-shaped tigers were looking for beastmen who could count. Their lord, Min Yan, as the only black tiger on the beast continent, had established the current city after separating from the Tiger City. Many strong beastmen sought his protection, moving their tribes to the Black Tiger City. But with more good people came more problems. How to distribute resources reasonably, and how to plan constructions. These were all headaches. The best strategist in the Black Tiger City only knows addition and subtraction up to 10. But Xian knows how to solve this problem no matter how complicated it is. Calculation. It's still a quadratic equation. She handles it with ease. So the 3 little ones and 1 big one had a plan. Make Xian dress up like a male. Some rooftops to hide her feminine scent. They even brought quiet grass. Quickly, they disguised her as a handsome young man. "Brother." Beiji's sweet and tender voice melted Xian's heart. Onsen also smiled. Called sweetly. Xian, happy, said in a male voice. "Very good, the voice is right, it's indistinguishable from male or female." Only Donji remained the same, proud. "How ugly it is to be male." Versus Xian was completely speechless. "It doesn't matter if it's male or female, in this life I won't escape this ugliness." Ah, by the way, her brother is called Xian. If you're going to act, you have to do it completely. How can a female be called like that? The 3 little ones obediently agreed. They then found a small place not far from the Black Tiger City. The performance began. When Uke and Ujong passed through the village, they heard the villagers whispering quietly, "Do you know what a master is?" "Lord Sinjian is the master." Old Nigu is seeing a master for the first time in his life. Hearing this, Ujong quickly stopped a villager and asked, "What Sijian? What master?" The villagers began explaining to him, laughing. But Wu Yong felt somewhat confused, so he just let the villagers guide him to see who this master Xinyang really was. When they arrived, Xinyang was explaining a problem of chickens and rabbits in the same cage. The long-eared beast was with the gugu. Looking up, there are a total of 10 drinks. Looking down, there are a total of 30 legs. How many long-eared beasts are there? And how many gugu beasts? Start the quick answer. X. Although it was a quick answer, the beastmen present were confused. No one could answer. Xinyang quickly asked Dongqi, "Is it possible that the question I asked is too difficult?" Dongqi looked at her for a moment, then nodded. If Xinyang coughed gently twice, "Let me give you the answer. There are 5 long-eared beasts and 5 gugu beasts." A group of bull-type beastmen thought for a moment. Then the males, very in sync, went to catch the long-eared beasts and the gugu beasts. Everyone counted heads and legs together. But even with a bunch of people gathered, Counting for a long time, they still couldn't count correctly. On the side, Huyan was very excited. He lowered his head and counted seriously. After counting, he exclaimed in surprise.
Right, it's correct!
He excitedly approached. A powerful and burly old tiger beastman held Xinjiang's hands, excited and enthusiastic. Yes, wise one, you are a sage. Xinjiang shook her head to indicate that she wasn't, but Wu Yong thought she was being modest. The day of the flame is coming. I don't know what the sage plans next. Our Black Tiger City plans to head toward the Dark Sun Lake. Why don't you come with us? Of course, yes. But do we have to pay any reward? Wu Yong moved his hands excitedly. What luck to have a sage. What else can we ask for? So Xinjiang managed to gain the trust of the Tiger Beastmen. They returned together to the Black Tiger City. Along the way, Xinjiang also had her worries. The lord of this Black Tiger City, Ning Yang, is a character who has appeared several times in the original work. He is cruel and fierce by nature. The 2 horrible scars on his face are terrifying. He has even killed 2 females. He's a male who doesn't even fear the punishment of the beast gods. He doesn't care at all. However, the original text also mentions his preferences. He likes alcohol. The problem is, alcohol is very rare in the Beast Continent. If she could make beer, maybe she could exchange more valuable things with Minjin. Thinking about this, Xian looked with satisfaction at the city in front of her. The so-called city is actually a large courtyard surrounded by big stones. An enormous fenced courtyard. However, in a bestial world with a very backward culture, such a city culture had already aroused great interest in Xinjiang. Wu Yong led them directly to Minjiang's residence. Xiang was just standing at the entrance of the cave. Suddenly, she felt an intense sense of crisis. This was the moment of facing a powerful opponent, an instinctive reaction of her body, that tingling sensation on her skin. It was no different from when facing an illusion. Even small drops of sweat began to form. Is there a problem, master? Wu Yong asked kindly.